Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us on Spaced Out Radio tonight. Bigfoot, Sasquatch, the cryptid, science behind everything, drawing out the art behind the encounters. Sybilla Irwin will be our guest here momentarily. Dirty Filth, he's in the hot seat drawing the cartoons tonight. And we say hello to each and every one of you tuning on in. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up, thumbs down, and if you're brand new, hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, because we are here 7 days a week for your woo pleasure, because that's what we do around here on the mighty SOR. Before we bring in our lovely guest, who, by the way, has a fantastic set of hair. Yeah, she's growing it out as we speak. Since she came on camera just a couple of seconds ago, her hair has grown like 3/4 of an inch. Really has. So let's get started with roll call right off the bat. Then we'll bring in Sybilla Irwin. You're going to love her tonight. Promise you. We have gold medal action going to Race Fan once again. Brown Dwarf with the silver. Nightmare taking home the bronze medal in the chat room tonight. Kathy Evans, Mama Susan, Michael Morris, how y'all doing? Logan L, Awesome Man B, and Jenny, thank you for joining us. Hi, Samantha. Thank you for coming on in. And we continue with the roll call. There is Grantavius Maximus, Lisa C., and Parkson Parkerson. How y'all doing? Judy of Gaul is here. Judy will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Awesome Ann Celine, the owner of KPNL. How are you, my friend? Good to see you. Thank you for coming on in. Donna Spencer, Evan Walters, how are you? One of our favorite veterans who tunes on in nightly, Black Dragon, the former Marine. Thank you so much for your service. We very much appreciate you and every veteran who listens to this show. Thank you very much. You always have a safe home here in the Spaced Out Radio chat room. Ed Clater is here. Thanks for coming on in, Ed. And who else do we got here? Huckleberry Charles, nice to have you back. Paramarv, good to see you. As we continue on with roll call, there he is, everybody. It's Doug Shelby. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start the show. Doc from Wyoming, how you been? Been a couple of weeks. Uncle Dale and his Power Stash are here. Remember, if you see Uncle Dale in the chat room or in Austin, Texas, rub his Power Stash for good luck right through the Labor Day long weekend. Dutch Hank, thanks for coming on in. Dutch Hank will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, to the right of the studio. Moving on with roll call, there's Super Duke from World Bigfoot Radio. We love Super Duke around here. Super Duke, Super Duke. He loves his theme song. He really does. Hi, Nikki in Seattle, one of our favorite psychics. Jules, how are you? Thank you for coming on in. Hi, Michael Fontaine, Margie O, Digger Dog, Dirty Filth, Phil the Stalker, and Alien Critter. How you guys doing? River Dogma, boom to you, Bama. How are you? Hey, it's Cable Guy Matt. Remember, if you see Cable Guy Matt, hit him up for your free piece of autographed coaxial cable, autographed by Cable Guy Matt. Remember, you cannot buy these in stores, one per household. And Cable Guy Matt was actually at my house today. It was kind of cool. We hung out, and he's going to fix the internet issue. You know how it's been cutting out recently? Like maybe like right around now? It's bad signal around my street right now. We're lucky to be broadcasting. Bad signal. So Cable Guy Matt's going to be fixing that problem tomorrow. And who else do we have? YJ Overlander, how you doing, buddy? W. David Page, good to see you. Gong Show, thanks for coming on in. Danny Bailey, welcome to SOR Chat. As we continue on with Roll Call, Pam Harris, thank you for joining us. As we continue on here, let us move forward, shall we? Tombstone, good to see you. Millennium, Invisible Tracker, Stephen Clark, how are you guys? Thank you for coming on in. Hey, Simon in Australia, thank you for kicking off the Super Chat tonight. The Super Chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you so much. We got 20 seconds. Can we do it? Let's figure it out. Scrolling on down. Bears Eat Beats. How are you? It's been a while. Nice to see you back. And Pixie Lara, good to see you. And Michelle Labigan, thanks for coming on in. Shaq Valet, good to have you here. And Zochito Paez, one of my favorite names on YouTube right there. As we continue on with Roll Call, Bombshell Bomber. And that'll be it. You need to help me out. Horns out. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old baby the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We're heading into the forest tonight. It's going to be a good one. Sybilla Irwin comes in, sketching encounters. Yeah, she is an investigator of Sasquatch, Dogman, anything weird happening in the forest, and she sketches it on out with her talents in art. We're going to learn about that. It's going to be cool. Then, in hour number 3, Swamp Dweller is here with another spooky story. Super Duke will be here for the Cryptid Report. I got the Dave 101, and Shirky Poo has the news. All right, let's get to it. Sybilla Irwin, a South Texas native. She's a graduate from Texas A&M University. She taught special education and has been researching the Sasquatch since the early 2000s. She's been an investigator with the BFRO since 2008, began using her art skills to create portraits of what witnesses were encountering. Sybilla has attended public and private expeditions all over the country and has led expeditions in Texas as well. She has had the privilege of living on an active habituation site in northern Kentucky for 5 years, gathering data and recording her experiences. With another work, her focus is witness advocacy. She strives to help those who have been traumatized by their experiences. And she recently created a YouTube channel called Sketching Encounters, where you can watch the witnesses share their encounters in their own words and see the sketches they've created together. I love this topic. Very excited to have Sybilla Irwin on Spaced Out Radio tonight. Sybilla, welcome to our channel. Thank you so much for coming on.
I am so happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
No problem at all. And we're very glad to have you here because this is another unique look at the Sasquatch and getting that eyewitness encounter. It's one thing to draw a portrait or a painting or a sketch of Sasquatch, but to actually capture that moment, I can't wait. We're going to get into that later on in the show. But for you, how did you fall in love with looking for Sasquatch? What brought you to this territory?
Oh, gosh. I think just being an outdoorsy kind of kid, all my life, kind of with a rough and tumble. I grew up with 3 brothers. So whatever they were doing, I was doing. And so I just have this, I grew up in that generation that spent more time outside than they did inside. And hunting and fishing, and I just am more comfortable out in the woods and outdoors. And I kind of grew up in a house that had some interesting things happening. So from a young person on, I just had a sense that there was more to this reality than what we were being told. And always a fascination with the strange stories and mysteries, and lived kind of in a house that had some haunting kind of things going on. So I think I found, um, so when I saw the Patterson footage, I saw the legend of Boggy Creek, and just like everybody else, I was also fascinated by UFOs and uh, things of that nature. Just, some of us, our brains are wired that way. I think we're just wired to love the mysteries of life, and that's just me. And like, one of my first expedition in 2008, that's when they came to Texas, and literally from the moment my boots hit the ground, I was absolutely hooked. Like I left that expedition a different person. Even my kids said that, like, Mom, you're different. And I kind of just, something clicked for me, and I knew that this was what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to be researching this. And it doesn't make any sense, but it was like a core feeling that I was supposed to be doing this.
Now, when you decided to commit to this type of research, why did you feel the belief in this creature? Why did you feel the need that you had to be one of the ones going out there to try and provide information, sightings, maybe video footage or evidence?
I don't know. I really don't know. It's like it's an internal thing. And I get asked that all the time, what is a girl like you doing in this kind of research? But it's like it's in my blood. And I know that sounds like so cliche, but it literally is, like, in my cells to be researching this. I mean, any opportunity that I can take to be in the field. I love field research. I love being in the moment, where things are happening. And of course, I have this profound love and empathy for people who have seen these creatures and had really close encounters. I feel really blessed, honestly, Dave, to have found something in my life that I feel so passionate about. Just,
And
you know,
I think that's a beautiful way to put it. Is you found passion within this, and it excites you. It feels that it gives you purpose. I mean, I feel I have a purpose doing this radio show.
I,
Uh,
yeah.
you know, I feel I always felt left out when I quit radio in 2007 after nearly 10 years. There was a void because I loved radio, and getting back into it with the creation of this show, it made me feel that passion once again. For you, have you ever had any close encounters with the creature that you could tell us about that has
Mhm.
driven that passion?
Yeah, very early on, in 2008, on an expedition in Honolulu, Oklahoma, literally a mile away from a very famous incident there in Honolulu that happened. Um, I don't know if you've heard about like that Honolulu incident where there was like shooting, a cabin that was kind of under attack, um, a
Yes.
family. Yes, so my sighting literally happened a mile away from that location. And it was a thermal encounter, probably like 80 feet away. Uh, it was the very first night of the expedition when it's mostly just investigators there. They're coming in from all over the United States, and I chose to camp away from the base camp in kind of like a satellite camp with several other people, and we made a campfire. We had our tents all set up, and um, one of the guys had just been through one of the really bad hurricanes, and he got in his tent pretty early, and his tent was closest to the tree line. And I kind of picked that location because the tree line was about 80 feet away, but there was a ravine and a river that dropped down below that. So I kind of felt like if something was going to approach us and observe us, that was a really great place for them. They could come up and feel, kind of safe and concealed. Um, so we kind of did some howls back and forth from base camp to where we were. And we finally got an answer. I did like a kind of a female uh, vocalization, and we got answered. And then we still kept sitting around the campfire just talking. And then about 15 minutes later, we did another vocalization between base camp and our camp. And I did another one, and again we got answered like really quick, and we could tell that the distance had been cut in half. So we kind of felt like, well, something's coming in on us. Um, Maybe 10, 15 minutes later, the man who had crawled into his tent closest to the tree line, he said, "Hey guys, something's throwing something. I mean, like something's hitting the side of my tent." So I had a thermal camera in my lap, so I fired up that thermal camera, and I walked over to the corner of his tent, and I put the thermal camera up to my face, and I had an instant heat signature. And that could be anything. It could be a bird in the tree. It could be a raccoon or an owl or anything. So I just kept watching, and maybe 2 or 3 minutes later, I'm still standing by this tent. I see this. Uh, Suddenly, I see this glowing head and shoulders, and I mean it's just a white glow, and very very slowly, like move out from the tree, and just head and shoulders, and just looking at me. It obviously uh, wasn't an owl or a bird or anything. It was a human form with a head and shoulders. And I was so mesmerized by the event, I didn't even tell the guy sitting, at the campfire what was going on. Is it looked at me for a while, and then it's very slowly went back behind the tree, and then a couple of minutes later, the head and shoulders came out the other side. I guess it was trying to figure out, can that person see me? And then it came back behind the tree again, and then I just kept the camera there, and then it dropped down below. I mean, what had happened is it dropped down, moved to another tree, came up behind another tree, and then started with the kind of the peekaboo thing all over again. Just a really slow, in and out move. And then I finally turned to the guys at the camp and I said, I've been watching one for all this time. And so one at a time, they all came and stood behind me. And so I guess the Sasquatch at that point realized he was busted. So then the really remarkable thing happened is it turned, and I got to, as it walked off slowly into the woods, I got to see, and it went to like the left. It didn't go back. It just went to the left. And I got to see the entire profile of this thing, and the way the head was sitting on the shoulders. It was, you hear people say that it was kind of like a football player, because had the big head, but the shoulders were huge and round. And I was just lit up like a Christmas tree, because it's my second expedition I've ever been on, and I see this amazing, have this amazing encounter. And we went and sat back down at the fire, and I'm just like, I'm electric. I'm so excited. And we sat and we kind of talked. Everybody was trying to bring me down off the clouds. I was so excited. And then about 15 minutes later, I just had a feeling. I just had a feeling that it was back. I turned on the thermal camera. I went back to that same place, and I stood there. I put the thermal camera up, and I'll be darned, it was right there. It was back again behind that same tree. So this time I wasn't greedy with the camera. I called one of the guys up, kind of like, just let's do this one at a time. And so they came up, and they each got a chance to look through the thermal camera, and everybody got to see like the heat signature.
Nice.
And it was an awesome experience, just unforgettable. Oh, and one cool thing was at the morning when I climbed out of my tent. Uh, with a thermal camera, you don't have great depth perception. So I thought there was like bushes in front of the tree line that were maybe 3 feet tall, 2.5, 3 feet tall. And when I came out of my tent and I looked at the tree line, those trees that I thought were just 2.5 or 3 feet tall were literally 5 and 6 foot tall cedars. So this creature that I was looking at was huge. And I was kind of glad that night that I didn't realize just how massively tall this thing was. I might have freaked out.
The idea that something massive and non-human is watching you, spying on you, in the forest. For people who have never had an encounter like that, Sybilla, tell us the feeling that goes through you. Now, I know for you, this being your first encounter, there's excitement, but I mean, you had to be a little bit fearful, a little suspect going through this as well, because your eyes are seeing one thing and your brain is probably telling you something completely else.
Yeah, it was difficult going to sleep that night because then the reality hits you that you're in a tent. A tent. That's not going to protect you from anything that decides to come inside the tent. Yeah. So yeah, the reality is I was extremely excited, but then I don't know if I got maybe 2 hours sleep because you're wide awake at that point. The adrenaline is still just flowing through you. And then to stand up the next morning out of the tent and then really get the reality of the height and mass of that thing. Yeah, that's crazy. But I wasn't really scared. It was actually the next night or maybe the night after that that I had a really terrifying experience on that same expedition. And it wasn't because of something I saw, it was something that I felt. Yeah, it was crazy.
What did you feel?
Um, I was at my same campfire, and there was a group of women who were part of the expedition. And sometimes, in expeditions, we do that. We'll send like groups out, like a little women's group, and they wanted to go for a walk to see if they could hear something or see something, or maybe something would follow them back. And I didn't go with them. I was still at my campfire, and I had a thermal camera. And we got a call on the radio, that said, "Can someone? We're hearing something or we're feeling something. Does anybody have a thermal camera?" So I radioed back, "I'll come with the thermal camera." So, I walked all this way, and it was quite a distance from where our campfire was. And I walked all by myself, and I didn't have like a single ounce of fear. I was just happy in my happy place. And then I crossed this bridge to where these ladies were, and we started moving towards the this river that was there. And man, you hear people talk about this wall of fear. I got hit with this wall of fear that I've never experienced. Well, I take that back. I have experienced it one other time. And that was here in this house when I was younger, when, it'd feel like if I didn't get out of my room in that second, I was going to die. And this is that same kind of feeling. I felt like we were walking into something I had so much hate and was so angry that we were there, and just the personification of evil, and we were walking right into it. And I thought we were all going to die. And I had the thermal camera, and I was scanning, and there was nothing. Like, I couldn't see a thing. And I kept walking. And I didn't know at the time, I didn't find out till years later, that one other woman in the group, my friend Ronnie Powell, that she was experiencing the exact same fear and dread and thought that we were going to die that I was. But we didn't say anything. Like, nobody said anything, even after the event. I didn't know that she felt that, and she didn't know that I felt that. It's weird. When you're a newbie at this, and I was kind of trying to prove myself. Maybe I didn't want to let on that I had any fear at all. We just kept walking. We made kind of a turn, and we went to this. There was an old trailer home that was there that we had checked out earlier in the day, and it was, there was nothing in it. We got to this trailer home, and we were standing on the corner of it on the outside, and all of a sudden something inside that trailer started thumping.
Oh my.
And it was a very rhythmic sound, and it was creepy as all get out. And we just stood there trying to decide, okay, what are we going to do? And someone said, should we go inside? We're like, no, that's not happening. Anyway,
Right.
yeah, it was a really eventful expedition. That was the first time I saw eye glow, for the first time. Everybody kept poo-pooing it back in 2008. There's no such thing as eye glow. You're seeing, eye reflection or something. but I was standing in the in a bed of a truck in that same location where I'd had the sighting the night before, and I was with a Colorado investigator. We're standing up in the bed of the truck, kind of with our elbows on the cab, just watching the tree line, wondering if anything was going to happen again. And all of a sudden, there's just two white glowing eyes come up in the forest, and nobody's shining a flashlight. It's just white glowing eyes. And I elbowed Dennis and I said, "You're seeing that, right?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm seeing it." So crazy. And I
I
didn't
want to
believe
ask
it.
you. I want to ask you because we got about 3.5 minutes before we have to go to break at the bottom of the hour. Sybilla Irwin is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. As you moved forward and as you started getting used to the fact that these creatures are real, you've now seen them with your own eyes. The outlines, sure, it was through a FLIR camera, or infrared, whatever you want to call it. And now you're seeing eye shine and everything. Explain to people how small you feel in the forest when you come across something that big.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm kind of a small person anyway, but you know that if this thing wanted you wouldn't stand a chance. Yeah, your mortality is right in your face, and I think that's harder for men than it is for women because I think men consider themselves, the real apex predator, especially when they have a gun in their hand. Um, but I mean, how many people have you heard that? Heard say, I what I was carrying would have just ticked it off, or there's no point in trying to shoot at something that massive. Yeah, your
Very true.
mortality is definitely your mortality is in your face. Yeah.
Did you feel at all threatened by this creature, or were you just kind of weirded out by its natural curiosity of you guys?
No, I was not weirded out that first night, like that first night, and it playing kind of peekaboo with it, um, because I'd been told that they were very curious about us, and especially women. Like they seem to be particularly interested in women and children. So I kind of expected the curiosity that I saw. So that wasn't freaky.
Well, what was something that kind of got to you about the whole situation? We got about a minute left. Was it the fact that there's a new reality? Were you able to accept that right away?
Yes, yes, I was, and I think it's because I'd had many paranormal experiences before. So this, you know, I just I just always kind of grew up kind of out of the box that there's more to this reality, and I felt that way when I saw Patty, from the Patterson footage the first time. I knew instantly that is a living creature. That's not a fake. That's a living creature. I never doubted that for a moment.
Well, you know what? I can't wait to hear more of your stories coming on up here because the idea that you are drawing real encounters that people are explaining to you, much like a police sketch artist would do. I think it's
Yeah.
fantastic. I think it's unique. The best part about it is there's not a lot of people, as you know, who are doing that to try and capture that moment. And I don't know how you came up with that. You could tell that the next Sasquatch, but good job on figuring that one out and doing it because we need more of that. We need more of that uniqueness. So
Well,
that way those anecdotal stories that we hear from so many people, Sybilla, now have a picture. And that's all because of you. Sybilla Irwin is our guest tonight. Sketching encounters of Sasquatch. SybillaIrwin.com is her website. Sketching Encounters is her YouTube channel. We're going to talk Sasquatch and Close Encounters when we return on Spaced Out Radio. Okay, I'm looking at some of these witness sketches here. Ooh, my gosh. Oh,
yeah,
oh my God.
some of them are
This
really scary.
This is the one. Hold on here. This one looks like the front side of the one I saw. I never saw the face, but the head and the shoulders are identical. This one right here.
Oh wow, yeah.
Because
And that was that was in broad daylight that he saw that.
Me too.
Awesome.
And I only got a right side and a full back and the back of the head profile with the point on top.
Mm-hmm.
He never looked back at me. I wish he did. I mean, his arms and the width of his shoulders. Yeah. I'm assuming this is what the face would look like, because this part here is identical to what we saw.
That's amazing. What state were you in?
Here in British Columbia.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. Mission, British Columbia, which is about 55 minutes west of the fabled Harrison Hot Springs, where all the Sasquatch encounters happen.
Yes, I have been there. What a beautiful place.
Yeah. These are great.
Oh, thank you. That's Mike Woolley's Sasquatch.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that one with the mouth his mouth open and being screamed at. That's actually a really amazing story.
Well, we're gonna go through some of these. I'm actually going to cut that feed here so we could go through and we could go. Yeah, we'll do that. This is gonna be fun. Yeah, this is why I'm excited right here.
I have to get my teddy bear.
You better get your teddy bear, dirty filth. Let's give a shout out to a few people who've come on in the chat room. D Swiger, nice to see you. Brian Ibach, welcome to SOR chat. John Jackson, good to see you here. And who else do we have here? Scrolling on down. Pam Harris, nice to have you here. Andy Jones, thanks for coming on in. All right. If you're new here, don't forget to give us a thumbs up, thumbs down, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell. Oob to Joe's Maine. You've got Bigfoots in California and River City Kings. Thank you. We will get to questions in hour number 2, but if there's something you want me to ask, just so you could light it up, I'll try and catch it on the chat here, and I'll save it for hour number 2 as well. Bill M611, welcome to SOR chat. Wes H, good to have you back. Dennis Zuniga, another great veteran listening on in. Thank you for your service, Dennis. And Tony Ditata, welcome back. Discovering Sasquatch and Cryptids. Good to see you, my friend. And we're caught up. We are caught up. Yeah. So I'm excited to chat with you about this now. You're so talented.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm just, like I said, I'm just so happy to have found something that I can actually contribute to somebody. I can actually make a difference for somebody. Art can be so kind of selfish,
Yeah.
And so to be able to, I just feel like God gave me these talents, and I've always wanted to be able to contribute to people. And so that's why I say I just feel so blessed that I've found some place where I can make a difference with people. I've worked with people who have been so traumatized that they're not sleeping, and something about the process of sketching helps them heal.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to get you to hold on there, if you don't mind. Thank you to Simon and to YJ Overlander for the great super chats tonight. Very much appreciate your love and support of Spaced Out Radio. It's a great way to support what we do each and every month here on the show, because we are here 7 days a week for your listening pleasure. Also, I know my signal is cutting out a little bit. Guys, there's a cable problem on my street. Cable guy Matt got it diagnosed today. That's why he is chasing down all the free coaxial cable he can find in order to fix the problem. It should be fixed up for tomorrow, and we are working on it. We are knowing about it. So thank you, everyone. And we're going to start with the second half hour here in about 5 seconds. Stay right with us. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Talking Sasquatch, Bigfoot, and encounters of the close kind. I want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. What's it like to have an encounter with Sasquatch? What's it mean when you have that encounter and somebody wants to draw it as it happened? This is our guest tonight, Sybilla Irwin. She is an artist. She is a Sasquatch researcher, investigator, and she also draws pictures of Sasquatch with her close encounters. Now, for those on the radio side of this broadcast, we're going to try and paint the picture as much as we can for you as she describes the situations. And at a later time, you could go back to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio, and you can see the beautiful art that she is absolutely drawn. Or you can go to her website, SybillaIrwin.com. So Sybilla, thank you so much for being here. Very much appreciated. When did you get this idea that you were going to sketch encounters?
It actually happened because I had an investigator who was kind of my mentor when I first joined the BFRO. It's from Wisconsin. He called me one day and he said, "Hey, I have this witness. I know you're an artist. I have this witness, and she had this encounter, and she found an image online that kind of looks like what she saw, but it needs some modifications. Would you do that for me?" And I said, "Well, sure, I'll try." So that's actually what got the ball rolling. And then I did that, and it worked out really well. And then other investigators started, asking for that too. So I was doing that, and then I started working on my own investigations. And drawing, sketching my witnesses as well. So that's kind of how it all started.
So on your website, SybillaIrwin.com, you kind of paint the picture, so to speak, for people who have had amazing encounters. And we're going to put some of these up on our YouTube screen. And I would love for you to tell the stories behind some of these, if you don't mind. All right. We're going to start off with this one. This one is a blue-eyed, dark-haired Sasquatch, 80s hair. All right. Well, there's way too much hair gel and hairspray to have hair like that. It looks like it would be part of, the pop rock of MTV back in the day. No, I'm serious. Bad chin hair.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Nice teeth. Gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Yeah. Tell us the story. This one looks like a youngster.
I think the witness thought maybe he was in his late 30s, early 40s. This was an amazing encounter. In fact, it's my third episode of Sketching Encounters is this event. The man who saw this was deer hunting, and he ended up in the middle of a deer ambush. That's how this all came about. The deer ambush was happening over on his right, and this guy was waiting for the deer to kind of jump over this rock wall. And so Ernie just happened to he kind of walked in on it, like the wind just happened to be right that morning that nobody saw him or heard him. And this Sasquatch was by a tree. And the Sasquatch, when the Sasquatch saw him, it just did a double take, like, how in the world? And was infinitely, just like respectfully curious about how in the world did you get this close to me and I didn't see you? Like, he had to come check out the human being that did this. And he approached him. One of the things that this witness said that will probably stick with me for forever is he said that when he actually had his gun up on this thing. And the Sasquatch, he said, the Sasquatch knew exactly what to do to keep me calm. And it took its hands and put its hands up, kind of like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, whoa, buddy, don't pull the trigger. It's okay. And he knew that the Sasquatch knew exactly how to bring him down, to calm him and keep him calm. And the Sasquatch literally just walked right up to him, all the while doing hand signals to him. Like, he pointed to Ernie, and then he pointed to himself, and then he showed his hands, like palms up, and then palms down, as he just walked right up to this man. Yeah.
Did they touch?
No, they did not touch, but he was probably within 5 feet, like right by this thing's shoulder. And there's a little weirdness there that he might have to do some hypnosis to recall, like the whole incident. There's a little gap, like a part of the movie's missing. But the next thing he knows, he's right by this thing's shoulder, and then this thing puts his hands up and then whoops 3 times, like whoop, 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 and then whistles. And he said, he'd heard that whistle lots of times. And I've heard other witnesses say that as well, that they just thought it was either a bird whistle but this one sounded exactly like a human whistle. And then it was answered. And then this being then turned and looked at him and nodded, like just this respectful nod, and then turned and walked away. And just walked right off. And then met up with another Sasquatch, a smaller one, and he's watching them, and he can hear that they're talking to each other. And then at some point, the big one is talking to the other one. He points at Ernie, and then the little one turns and looks, and it's like, oh my gosh! He saw the shock register on the other one's face, and then the big one pointed to him, to the other one, and told him where to go, and he pointed to himself and showed where he was going to go, and then they separated, and that was the end of his encounter. But this happened way back, I think it was like 86, and there was nobody to tell, so he just, at first he kind of wanted to follow them to see, where they were going, and he also kind of made note of the tree, like the height of this thing. So he measured it off. It was like 7 feet, 8 inches, somewhere around like that. But then he realized that they were splitting off. And then, the thought occurred to him, they may circle back. He didn't quite trust them. So he didn't, but so he got out of there and got back to his truck. But just an incredible encounter.
What an encounter. In 1986, I mean, that's life-altering there.
Yeah.
Life-altering. Now, some of the Sasquatch that you have drawn have very human-type faces as traits. I look at this one here. It looks very indigenous, and there are wonderings if way back when in time that maybe, we're going back tens of thousands of years, that Gigantopithecus may have either mated with female humans at that time, or moving forward, that maybe in 500, 1,000 plus years ago, that these First Nations people who went rogue and went to live in the wilds of the forest away from their reserves, and well, they wouldn't have reserves back then, but from their communities, let's say, and just developed their own way of life with their own language and Mother Nature over time, which always prepares everybody for those colder days, and their environments may have grown the hair, and it became another subspecies,
Mm.
whatever it may be. I mean, I'm looking at this photo here that you have drawn, and it's a beautiful photo of to me, it looks like a male Sasquatch, but
Mhm.
it's very, very masculine and humanoid looking.
Yes.
Sybilla, what's this story about?
This was California, and this was a young woman who was with two other people, and they were going to a party. I think she was 14 or 15, and they were going to a party, and this thing crossed the road. I mean, it literally just ran like 5 feet in front of their vehicle. And she said, this was its face before it kind of turned and looked at them, and it was a little more ticked off when you hear that a lot from witnesses. Like sometimes when a Sasquatch realizes they've been seen, they're mad. They're unhappy that that's happened. And so his countenance changed quite a bit whenever he realized that he'd been seen. But this was just, it ran right in front of the vehicle, fast, fast, fast. Like one foot. One is on one side of the road and the other's, you know, enormous, giant steps, and unnaturally fast and massive. Of all the words that I've that's the word that I've heard the most out of in all the years I've been doing this. Is like massive. This thing was massive. That's the word they all use. Just unbelievably massive. That and the speed with which, if someone sees them running, it's just like unnatural. The speed that they run. Yeah. There was
How close to the car or the vehicle was this creature?
it was very, very close. Like she didn't see I think that she really, I think its thighs were right at the hood of the car. Like it was very close. It was very,
Wow.
very close. Yeah, very close.
Well, let's move on here because we have so many of these, and time will become a very vicious point. Now, this almost looks like this next one, number 3.
That's the same
Humanoid.
one. Yeah, that's
It
the
is
same one. Yeah, but it's just got it. It's mad that it got busted. It's like, darn it, you saw me. See, so look, that's how close it was. And see, it's mad that it got seen, and that happens a lot. Like you hear that a lot.
a
Either
friend
that,
of mine.
it's yeah,
Go ahead,
it's
please.
mad. It's mad that it's got busted, or it's mad that you're there, or they look at you and they're kind of disgusted with you.
A friend of mine named Dave, back in the early 80s, he had a Camaro. He was like 17, 18 years old, and he was taking his girlfriend out to a family gathering at one of the lakes around here. That's about 45, 50 minutes away. And they were going to one of the cabins, and it was dusk, much like this picture, where they watched this thing come out of the ditch. And when they realized what it was, they saw the giant handprint hit, like, get the hell out of my way type of thing,
Yeah.
as the hand slapped the windshield of the
Oh
car.
my.
And then
That's
he kept going. He kept going, but in his rearview mirror, as he lit up the area with his brake lights, he could see the creature continue to cross the street and then walk up an embankment. His girlfriend was so scared. I mean, she was only 17 as well. And remember the old Camaros, you could go on forever, where it had plenty of foot room. She crawled right underneath the dashboard and would not come up until she knew they were out of that area. She was so
yeah.
freaked out. But he says, now I wish I would have investigated it more. Did I
Yeah.
get hair on there or skin samples from hitting the glass or whatever? But that story sounded eerily familiar. This next
And she,
one, oh, go
and
ahead,
she
please.
she 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 made that guy bring her back home. Like she couldn't go to the party. She was like, I'm done. And he took her back home. And of course her parents were like, why are you home so early? And she didn't tell anybody. You hear that a lot too. It's like they have encounters and they don't tell anybody. Two people can have encounters and then they never even speak to each other again. And they never speak of it again. It's crazy what these encounters, like how people react, and also
What,
differently.
what do you think is with that fear?
I don't know. Sometimes it seems like a door closes. and maybe it's kind of a safety feature. There's I have some alien encounter kind of things in my childhood, and for me, I noticed the how I dealt with it is I kind of compartmentalized it. Like there's one part of me that absolutely understood and believed what had happened, and then there's the other part of me that um, doesn't be with it at all. And it took me a long time to um, kind of get that wall to dissolve so that I can have those memories and be okay with it. And I think witnesses, it's a for some of them, it's just too much.
Well, let's go to another one here. And this one kind of freaks me out, as I told you during the break, because when I had my encounter about 75 feet away, I got a right side and full back and back of the head profile of this creature. And with the big shoulders, no neck, pointy head. It wasn't as dark furred or haired as this one is, but this one is very eerie because I feel like I'm looking at the face of the one that I saw, even though I never saw the face. And so this encounter here, I mean, this looks like one big behemoth here. Tell me about this story.
This was a daytime sighting. My friend Dave, he was on some ATV trails with another friend of his in the Allegheny, and I think Dave kind of got ahead of the other man, so he kind of pulled and stopped and was waiting for the other guy to catch up, and suddenly he heard this little dink, and he just listened, and then it wasn't very long, and then he heard it again, and he realizes something is throwing something at his ATV, and so he turns to where the origin of these little things are coming, and this thing is kind of squatted down, and then stands up, like slowly, just reveals his whole self to the witness, and they just observed each other, and he one of the things I really wanted to capture in his sketch was the curiosity. He said this thing just had such a curious expression. It was just very interested in me, and we just studied each other, and then it after a time, then it backed, took several steps real slowly backwards, and literally just dissolved into the forest.
I do have to ask, do you sell these? I really want this one.
Absolutely. I'm not gonna. You don't have to buy it. Just you can right click on it and save it, or if you want like a high resolution image, I can send you that, like the high res.
Oh,
Because
I
these
would
aren't
love.
high. Yeah, I don't post the high res, but I'll send you a high res image of any of them that you want. And I don't know if you saw it at the top. There's a whole. If you go to the top, there's a whole. There you go. Like all of the. No, right across the. That it when you scroll across, like there's a whole. Yeah, there you go. See, there's a whole bunch of.
Hey, hey, there's even one of me in here. Look at that.
Yeah, that's a really
That's
unusual
Dave
one.
right there. That's Dave. You know, the white
Yeah,
around the face and the
yeah.
hair. Yeah, that's
And
totally
the fangs. Yeah, that is a really unique. I've only ever drawn one like that. There's
wow.
one, if you kind of keep going to the, let's see, there's one
Which,
that's there's one that's been chosen like 15 times. Like sometimes when I'm working with a witness, I'll after I've gotten their description and asked them a whole bunch of questions, I'll ask them to go to my website and say to them, would take a look around at my website and look at the witness sketches, and if there's any that something that you see that resonates with what you saw, just write it down and tell me, like if the shape of the eyes, or like you did, the shape of the head and the shoulders, or the nose, or whatever.
right.
And then, then I'll be building a new composite out of what you tell me. And so there's one sketch up there, and it's from Washington State, and it's been chosen like 15 different times as like the base sketch for people, which I find is really amazing. There must be something about that sketch that um, for some reason it matches kind of closely what people are seeing. Like they'll change the hair, the shape of the face a little bit or whatever. It's amazing. That one, that's an incredible story of that guy.
This is
This
another
man,
point. This is another
yeah,
point ahead. We got about. Let me just check how much time we have. We have about 3.5. Yeah, we got about 4 minutes here.
this is such a great story. This man had both his parents had passed away, and he was driving out in the morning to a different state to go to his parents' property. He was trying to decide whether he was going to keep it or not. So this road hadn't, no one had been on this road for quite some time, and he's in a car. He should have been, he said, in the truck because this road had not been maintained. He's driving out there, and the sun has just come up, but he still has his headlights on, and he comes around a corner, he comes around a curve, and his headlights hit something in the middle of the road, and he thinks maybe it's a little bear, like a baby bear. So he honks his horn, and out from the right side comes this female Sasquatch, and like in one step, she's in the middle of the road, and she does this amazing thing. She, how I'm a mom. We pick our babies up this way. We bring them to our chest. This mom, just like literally, she's one step, she's in the middle of the road. She swoops, like she picks this baby up. She's running for this baby. She picks it up this way, and she slings the baby up on her back. And the baby, he sees all this. And the baby grabs it, the hair, the shoulder, on the hair of the shoulder, and then draws its legs, like, right up underneath. And then the next step, they're off the road and down into the gully. And he stops his car, and he it happens like just in split seconds, and you just can't believe what he saw. He opens the door, and he's standing there, and he's listening, and he can hear like her move off, and he's just standing there like with his mouth open. He's in awe, like, oh my God, what did I just see? And he's standing there, and then he hears this tink on the roof of his car. He turns around, and this guy is standing at the back of his car, and they make eye contact, and then the thing roars at him, like just screams at him from that close.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So he jumps in his car, and it takes off, and he has to come back around. I mean, there's no way to get out that way. He drove a little ways, and then he stopped, and he kind of turns around, and he's trying to figure out what he's going to do, and then rocks start happening again. So it took him a while to get up the gumption to kind of plow through there, and he finally did. But I don't think he kept that property. But what a terrifying encounter. But I mean, it was just the big guy, taking care of his family. He was, letting him know, you're not going to follow, you're not going to hurt you're not going to hurt him. Get out of here. Yeah.
Well, I mean that's one upset mother, and you cannot blame the mother for being a little upset that the little child just ran into a car. Much like we worry about our own kids going through a shopping mall parking lot or something along those lines. It's a little eerie. It's a little scary.
Yeah, they weren't expecting. Yeah, they weren't expecting a car to be there because nobody had been on that property for years.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. My goodness. It just shows that we got to be attentive at all times. I mean, now you got to put a sign up at that cabin that says, check for Sasquatch before backing up, or no. Yeah, I don't know.
Children do sleeping in the road. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we have you for another hour, and Sybilla, I am loving this show. Loving it. We're going to get into some audience questions. We're going to talk more about your art that you have covered on your website, SybillaIrwin.com. And we're also going to get into some Dogman as well. Sybilla covers all cryptids. Spaced Out Radio continues with Hour 2 next. I love it. I love it. Thank you. This
You're
is
welcome.
awesome.
Thank you. Yeah.
Danny Staten, welcome. Bigfoot, Michigan Rob. I know my buddy Nate Foot is out there somewhere. So Nate Foot, I'll give you one of these. Just a fisted victory right there, buddy. I don't know why, but I felt like I needed to. Who else is here? Will
There
you
was
ask
a man. There was
for
a
white?
man who.
Okay.
There was a man who posted something about having PTSD for 47 years.
Yeah,
So I'd really like to talk to him.
Oh yeah, we can make that happen.
Yeah, I'd really like to. If there's something I can do to help, and these sketches tend to do that.
I'm sure you would love it. Stephen Finnegan, good morning to you, and thank you for that awesome super chat, man. Very much appreciated. Hey, Dirty Filth, we're going to turn things over to you here for a few moments because you're that guy who likes to have things turned over to him. There you go. Sybilla, I'm going to step away for a minute, and you can watch Filth do his art.
Okay, I will. I've been enjoying it, actually.
Excellent. More cartoons. Well, the show's going pretty good.
Oh, thank you. When did you start cartooning?
I've just drawn my whole life. I've always drawn cartoons. At one point, I used to draw a lot of realistic portraits, but I watched a lot of Ren and Stimpy and Nickelodeon things back in the day, and Ralph Bakshi and things like that. And I've always I always liked that style of cartoon. I even went to animation school.
Did you really?
I dropped out. I quit.
Yeah.
It was more computer animation.
Yeah.
And so I moved back home and started drawing cartoons. And then one day I was listening to a show about Randy Kramer. He's apparently some super soldier guy. And then I wanted to find more about it. And then I seen a show, it said Spaced Out Radio, and I listened to it, and Dave's like, "Oh, I'm from BC and whatnot." And I went, "Hey, cool, Canadian guy talking about weird stuff."
Yeah.
And being a fellow Canadian, I was like, "I'll listen to this guy." And then one day I offered him a drawing of a UFO, and he's like, "Can I really have that?" And I go, "Well, did Bob Bigelow own Skinwalker Ranch?" And he's like, "Right on." So I mailed it to him, and then this was like 2019 or something.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Hey, you want to draw a cartoon for me once a week or something?" I was like, "Sure." And it just evolved into this. So now I draw cartoons and do it live for Dave, and I have a ton of fun, and apparently people enjoy watching it. So
yeah, and there is something relaxing. There's something relaxing about watching people paint, I think.
I used to watch Bob Ross, so I can kind of
get
how people will be like, "Hey, that's pretty cool to watch that." You know, I mean, you're listening to people talk, and then you get something to sort of focus on as opposed to just some heads. Unless you have beautiful hair like you and Dave. I mean, if I was on there, the glare would be outstanding. I mean, anybody that's seen me in real life, I just carry around like a pair of sunglasses so the glare off my head doesn't blind them too much. But yeah, we've been doing this for a couple months now, and to be honest, I used to just do one cartoon a week, and it took me so long. I was like, "What am I going to draw? I got to think of something." And now I just show up, and it's just this. I feel like I'm in an orchestra or something. I show up, I just know exactly what I'm going to do and how to do it, and then I do it. Next thing I know, I got a wicked cartoon.
Like, do you know what you're going to do? Like when you sit down and the show starts, or do you already have an idea, or do you sometimes just go with like what pops into your brain?
Sometimes I have an idea. I got a lot of ideas that I scribble down during the day when I'm at work. I should be working.
Mm-hmm.
The boss is probably actually listening, which is terrible. But sometimes it just, like I said earlier, and I think it was before the show, sometimes people will be talking about something midway through the show, and I just got to stop and do that. And a couple times Dave goes, "Hey, I got an idea." And I go, "Oh, sure, why not?" So we draw that. But for the most part, I often come into it right on the seat of my pants.
That's pretty nice.
Which I find is good for my creativity.
Oh, I totally agree. Sometimes I do that with canvas as well. Just kind of throw some underpainting on there and just kind of see, and then just start reducing and just kind of see what kind of pops out.
I bet you got about 100 semi-done canvases sitting around.
Yes, that's so true. I do. I have
Yeah,
a lot
behind me
of
there's
I
a
have a
stack
lot
of
of
them.
completed work too, but it's so framing is just so expensive these days. My gosh.
Yeah, I wish I knew somebody that did woodwork and just was
Yeah.
mysteriously like to do art frames. That'd be so cool. But maybe one day I'll meet a person like that.
Well, I go to thrift stores a lot to buy framing because a
Excellent.
lot of people don't. They'll take beautiful oak frames or barnwood frames or something, and they take it to the thrift store, and they don't realize like how valuable like barnwood is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
guys, we got 15 seconds left, and we're going to continue on. Thank you to Stephen, YJ, and Simon for the super chats. Here we go, everyone, in 5 seconds.
I agree about the frames.
yeah, I enjoyed talking.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/spaced out radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Abiritate. Abiritate is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight with Sybilla Irwin, her website, SybillaIrwin.com. She's been almost 20 years looking for Sasquatch. She's had her own encounters, and now in interviews that she does with people who have had close encounters with creatures of the forest, she draws them out, taking her two loves, art and Sasquatch hunting, to a whole new level. Sybilla, welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Let's continue on here with your great work with Sasquatch and taking people's encounters. When you draw out the encounter, how much does this help the people who are maybe a little rattled still by their encounters and don't really understand the magnitude and I don't want to, I hate using this term PTSD that surrounds it.
But that's really what it is for so many people. But for so many people, they can't sleep. Like I was just talking to a man yesterday who saw something that I don't even know what to call it, honestly. And I said, my God, after I spoke with him for like almost 2 hours, I said, how in the world did you sleep that night? And he said, I really haven't slept well since. That's incredible. I mean, think about that. Think about the impact that seeing some of these things has had on people's lives. And my heart just goes out to them because most people have not asked for this experience, or not consciously anyway. I mean, they're just driving their car, or they're taking a walk down the trail, or, they're on their ATV. Most people are just doing their lives, and bam, their lives are irrevocably changed. You can't ever, it's like the fabric of the reality is torn, never to go back the same. And my heart just goes out to them.
Yeah, I can totally feel that. absolutely feel that pressure, that gnawing anxiety that goes along with it. You know, and the idea that when you see something that isn't supposed to exist, you know, like I laugh at a lot of people when they say, well, why you have a camera on your phone? Why didn't you take it out to take a picture? When you see something that isn't supposed to exist, it messes with you. You're not prepared for it. You're scared, you're humbled, you're amazed, you're freaked out all at the same time. And you don't think rationally because you're just trying to capture in your mind exactly what you're seeing.
Plus, you're in that moment, and you don't know what's going to happen next. And you don't know if that thing's going to come try to
Exactly.
rip your head off. I mean, you know, you're. There was a hunter I was working with, and his image is up there. Uh, he was bear hunting, and he had dropped his son off, and this thing stood up, you know, out of the forest, and so he finds himself literally just feet away from this massive thing, and it's, you know, it looks at him, and then it screams at him, and its mouth is open. He's so close he can see like the uvula shake down his throat, and you know his son heard this scream like miles away. That's how loud it was, and he had a camera and a gun sitting in the truck next to him, and he told me, "You're not thinking about that. You're wondering, are you going to survive this? Because what this thing could rip the door off." You know, this thing could push your truck over. You don't know what's happening next. Your camera is the last thing you're thinking about.
I 100% agree with you on that. Before we get to more encounters that you have and some audience questions as well, have you ever dealt with any cases that have supernatural cases that go along with them? Maybe ghosts, UFOs, other cryptids hanging out as well, maybe Sasquatch just disappearing, vanishing right in front of people. Now, I'm not sure if you're still part of the BFRO in regards to that, because I know they hate that type of story, and I am not a fan of BFRO because I think when you eliminate or edit stories, you are playing with your statistics, and therefore, in my opinion, BFRO's statistics are absolutely null and void because of what they do. But that's
Yeah,
for another conversation another
yeah,
day.
yeah,
But for you, have you dealt with encounters that have had paranormal or supernatural aspects?
absolutely. And in my own encounters, I've dealt with, like when I was living in Crittenden, Kentucky, at that habituation site, there was so much paranormal activity in the house. Um, it's kind of hard to know, like the line is blurred. So I don't know whether the activity, like things would move in the house on their own. And so I didn't know, okay, is that Sasquatch related, or are there ghosts in the house? Like I to this day I don't know. How do you know? I mean, there was actually a footprint inside the house one time. Now the doors were all locked. I mean, you know, I discovered it in the morning. So how does that happen? You know, how do you explain that? And I wasn't the only one that saw it. My son happened to be living with me at the time. You know, so
Right.
yeah, really blurred lines. Like, and so you don't know if something's coming in your house. Like like for instance, I had in my kitchen. There's a rack, and all, you know how people have racks and they have their pans on hooks, you know, to keep everything all nice. I'd fixed myself a cup of coffee, and I walked by that rack where all those pans were hanging, and some force slammed all those pans together, and I mean
My
loud.
goodness.
Yeah, and I mean just hit him really hard, and then I stood back and I'm watching him, and I'm expecting them to stop moving, you know, the momentum of them to stop, and they didn't. They just kept swinging. And I finally reached up and like stopped them, and then I smacked them myself to see how long it would take for them to stop swinging, and of course they did naturally stop, like I would expect. So I don't know, and yes, I have worked with witnesses who have. The witness I'm going to be editing his show. I've just finished today, and he's from Central British Columbia. He had, you know, the mind speak thing, absolutely heard mind speak, and I mean multiple times, from both of the creatures that he saw, and the female materialized right in front of him.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. Let's get to some audience questions here. We're going to start off with one of our good friends of this show, Nate Rudd, who has Washington, Idaho Bigfoot Society up in Spokane, Washington. And he is asking, Sybilla, what do you think Sasquatch is? They sure seem to resemble humans. I don't see apes or gorillas in your unbelievable artwork. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Nathan, for the question. When I first started, I kind of was on this same page with a lot of people who think this is some ancient, Gigantopithecus, some kind of animal. But the more I worked with witnesses and the more investigations I went on, and the incredible intelligence that you see time and time again in regards to their ability to bust cameras, even though you've hidden them in places like, that would, I mean, the average human would walk right into these camera traps because we hid them so well, and things like that. You saw the incredible level of intelligence and their ability to kind of know you're going before you even know you're going. I mean, there's just, and I worked with so many witnesses, especially hunters, who have had their scopes on these things and their finger on the trigger, and the first thing they'll tell you is this was too human to shoot. This was just like looking in, and the eyes were pleading with me, don't do that, please don't do that. And then the second thing they'll say, of course, is that, I didn't have a big enough gun. But the witness sketch, the very first one that you and I talked about, the first thing Ernie said to me was, this is like an ancient human. This is like take a man from Papua New Guinea, with a more of a brow ridge and really, strong facial, cheekbones and everything, and make him ancient. That's what I saw. I saw some form of ancient human being. So but I also have to admit that there's these other abilities that they have. I mean, like infrasound. I myself have experienced infrasound by these things. And, you grow up in this body, you know how things feel. And when you get hit by something and your body reacts in a way that you've never experienced before, like the first time I got hit by infrasound was in Honolulu, again, just literally probably 200 feet away from where that incident happened with the Honolulu shooting. When I got hit with infrasound, my body started vibrating all over. It's like my rib cage. I experienced my whole body vibrating like there's nothing to equate it to. I mean, if you've ever been to a crazy rock concert where the speakers are so loud that they're vibrating your ribs, you take that and multiply it by 100. My whole body was vibrating, and all I heard was just this, like a slight moan, sounded like a very soft moan to my right. I heard that, and then all of a sudden I'm almost lose my knees because my body is shaking all over. And there was a man up in the bed of the truck that I was standing at the tailgate, and I looked up at him expecting for him, any moment to say, what the, heck is that? And he never did. It's like I'm the only one to experience that. Like it was shot right at me for some reason. It was crazy. And that's not the only time I've been hit in for sound. And it's not the same way every time. Like the second time, I was in a tent in Michigan, and I heard this thing walk right up to the tent. Like I woke up to these very slow, like, and then a long pause, and then, and then another long pause. Like I just heard it walk right up and stand right at the, right by my head, and you're waiting for what's going to happen next. And then suddenly I couldn't inhale. It was like this thing expanded my lungs to the point that I couldn't take in another breath. And I've never experienced that in my life. Some people said that's kind of like what asthma feels like. Well, I've never had asthma, and I've never, to that day or ever since, had that that's never happened to me. I've never had that physical thing happen. So I was like going, and I couldn't breathe. And I didn't panic. I'm not a person who panics. I just kind of, in my head, I was like, well, maybe when I move, like I was in my sleeping bag, and I thought, well, maybe if I make a whole lot of noise, I'm just going to lay here and take this for as long as I can, and then, well, I'm gonna make a lot of noise in my sleeping bag, and so I did. That's exactly what happened. I made a lot of noise, rolling over, and then in an instant, my breathing was back to normal, and I never even heard it like walk away either. Crazy stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Let's get to another question from our audience because they are building up here. And TCR44, first time in our chat room, welcome. Has Sybilla, that's you, Sybilla, had any Dogman encounters?
No, I have not. Well, possibly, but I'm not sure. There were some howls that I recorded from Colorado, southern Colorado, that have a very canine element to it, but also a very human element to it. And they were, those vocalizations have been looked at. They were analyzed, and the guy that analyzed them said it was inconclusive because there was so much canine, but there was just this, and I've heard canines and I've heard coyotes and wolves and everything, and nothing in my life has ever sounded like what this thing did. But it did do a bark, like it barked multiple times during the recording, like it would bark like a dog, but then it would, this incredibly melodious vocalization, just incredible. So was that a Dogman? Maybe, but I've never seen one visually, and I don't really think I want to, except maybe from a distance. They scare the heck out of me. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, let's get to another one here. River City Kings is asking, Sybilla, have you ever sketched a Dogman and Bigfoot fight told by an eyewitness?
No, I have not. I was actually working with a witness who had that exact same thing happen. And unfortunately, he passed away. And I, never got to illustrate all the things in his life that happened to him. But I'm sure I would have loved to have sketched it. And if there's some other witness out there that's had that experience, please contact me, because I would really love to sketch that for you.
Right. All right, let's continue on. We'll get one or two more in here before we get to more stories. Joe is asking, are they, the Sasquatch, mad at themselves for being seen, or do you think they're mad at us?
Yeah. I think they are mad at themselves. It almost feels like there's some kind of code that they're not supposed to be seen, and of course they're not supposed to be photographed either. And sometimes I think they're pretty disgusted with us as well. Like, as we human beings do some pretty disgusting things. And I think they're kind of mad at themselves because I think they're not supposed to be seen. And to be seen by such a puny, human beings, I don't have, I love human beings, but I don't have a real high opinion of most of us. And so to be busted by a human being, that's gotta make them feel pretty low sometimes. Got really messed up.
Let's go over to Skilly, who is asking, Sybilla, could you tell us about your white skinwalker portrait, please?
Yes. That was a witness that contacted me. He found me through a friend that he had this encounter, and he was not sleeping, and he was just sick. He was struggling so hard with what he saw, and he saw this thing really up close. It was literally just standing on the side of the road, and I actually got to go to that location and see where this happened. This man's name is Barry, and this is if you go to my YouTube channel, you can see this entire story, and hear him tell the story, because he does a really good job. he's a hotshot driver, and so he ends up on some really lonely roads out in the middle of nowhere, and sometimes really late at night. And he's coming down this hill, and these guys that are carrying this equipment to some of the oil field, some of the rigs they go to, they're not very well lit, and he's pulling like a 40-foot trailer, so they have their own lights. So he has incredible, I don't know how many lumens on his truck, but like in the top and in the back, he's really can light an area up. So he sees his lights, his headlights. Oh, the first thing that happened was a car passed him, like just going at crazy speed, and he thought, oh, that's crazy. Like on a road like this with all the deer and wildlife, that's kind of stupid. And then his headlights hit something that's standing on the left side of the road, and so then he hits his bright lights, and he's slowing down because you don't know if that thing's going to run in front of you or not. And as he's getting closer, then more details are being revealed, and he sees this is something standing on the side of the road. And as he gets closer, he sees this is this really thin, small, sloping shouldered thing with the head of a coyote on it. And as he goes by, this thing looks right into his, I think he even said that, like right into his soul. Like he felt this, he felt this thing look into him. And, terrifying experience. And then he's terrified it's going to jump on the bed of his truck. And he said he was going to deliver it into the next town if that's what happened. And he was going to just keep going. But it really impacted him. And he was one of those people that doing a sketch really helped. I mean, after we got through his sketch, he could start sleeping at night. And I think what happens, Dave, is that people, it's such an emotional experience to see something like that that's not supposed to exist. And I think what I have to ask when I'm working with a person, I have to ask so many detailed questions because I have to build an image in my mind of what they saw. So I'm asking really detailed questions about the shape of the eyes, the eyebrows that they saw, the space between the eyes. Like, did you see a bridge? All these distances, between the structures on your body, they all matter. And so I have to ask really specific questions. And I think it kind of takes it out of their minds, like into the more like the left brain. They have to go into that detail. And I think maybe, I could be wrong, but I think something in the process of taking it out of the right emotional part of your brain and more into the left logical, where you have to recount those details. I think there's something in that process that helps. And then I think also that at the end, and they have to help me, like, I send them a first iteration and it usually feels like a real shot in the dark. And then they tell me, I send it to them, they tell me what's working and what's right, and then what I need to fix. So then they ping it back to me, I fix it, and then we just ping it back and forth and I tell them, and I want it 100%. Let's get it as close as, and let's don't stop until we get it like 100%. And then, so in that process of pinging it back and forth, and they look at what I've produced, and then they have to figure out what's working and what's not. I think there's something in that process that helps. And then by the time we get done, they can turn this image around and show people and say, this is what I saw. This is why I no longer hunt. This is why I no longer go out in the forest ever. Or I stopped hunting, I stopped fishing. This is why I had nightmares. And then people can, because you can try to tell someone what you saw using 1,000 words, but when you hold up an image and say, this is what I saw, well, then people get it, just like that, like, holy cow, that's what you saw? Yeah. And it was like it was 8 or 9 feet tall and weighed 1,000 pounds.
Right.
And it was mad.
That is intimidating. That is for sure. As we got just a couple seconds here before we got to go to break here at the bottom of the hour, we're going to continue with more stories with our guest tonight, Sybilla Irwin. SybillaIrwin.com is her website, where you can see her amazing sketches of Sasquatch encounters from eyewitnesses who've seen strange things in the forest. Spaced Out Radio passes the halfway point. We'll be right back right after this. Incredible. This is just amazing. Just amazing.
Yeah. The people's encounters are amazing. Like, gosh. Like wait till you see episode 4 that I'm working on right now. Oh my gosh.
My wrench is if one of you could put a link to Sybilla's YouTube channel in the chat room, that would be great. And it's Sketching Encounters. Sketching Encounters.
That would be great. I appreciate that. I just started it about 2 months ago, so I don't have a lot of subscribers, and I'd really love to. I'd love for more people. I'd love for these to get out because some of these things that people are talking about, I think, like you said, have been hidden, and these witnesses are being brave enough to come forward and share, what's happened, and hopefully that will help other people who have had the same experience and they haven't been able to talk about it to say, okay, like this, the one I'm working with now. This thing rolled its eyes back in its head, and he got to see glow, like a glow, start at the base of its eye. Like, it's crazy.
Okay, I found the channel here. Everybody in the chat room, go hit subscribe on Sybilla's channel. It's brand new. She only has a couple videos up there so far, 3 of them. Sybilla, we got to help you out with your YouTube channel.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm working. Episode 4 will probably be out this weekend. I just have to edit.
All right. I'm going to do you a favor here. Let me find my YouTube. Let's go to my settings. My community. I'm going to add you as one of my featured channels that I support.
Well,
and if you could do the same, we'll be able to help each other out.
I will definitely do that.
All right. Edit. Sketching. Counters. All right, so now you're on our channel.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. It's deeply appreciated.
Oh, no worries. No worries. Wrong one. We got about 2 minutes here. Dirty, how you doing down there, buddy?
I'm drawing a Sasquatch with his legs in the water so far.
Oh, yeah? Having a little dip?
There's his buddy down there.
That's awesome.
It's going to be a good one, Dave, I promise.
Looks good already.
I like the one that you threw up about the cats.
Oh, that he was hurting cats?
Yeah.
Oh, wrangling my cats.
Yes, that was really cute. That was really awesome.
Well, I'm actually wrangling my cats.
Yeah.
Hector Silo, Deborah Lucas, good to have you both here. Asimov, welcome back. Lawrence T, thanks. And you're getting a bunch of subs now.
Oh, thank you so much, guys. I so appreciate it. I just want to get the word out. Yeah, I just want to get the word out to people. Especially people who, it just, have had, especially the woo stuff, Dave, the stuff that, people are talking about it more and more, but, there's still, even in the Sasquatch community, there's people on one side and there's people on the other. And, maybe it's because they haven't experienced the woo themselves, but, it is.
Well, you know what? The big thing is, as I've said, especially in the cryptid community, we're not doing investigations. We're doing a lot of, what's the word I usually use for this? we're only investigating what we support. We're not investigating the phenomena. We're investigating opinion rather than science.
Yeah.
And in science, you can believe one thing. You can believe the earth is flat, but science says it's round.
Yeah.
And that's where we get a lot of trouble. Okay, Filth, I need you to mute. Sybilla, hold on 1 second here. Here we go.
Absolutely.
We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. I want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot, reading Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight with Sybilla Irwin. SybillaIrwin.com is her website, where she is a Sasquatch researcher and investigator, as well as an artist, and she has literally combined her two loves into capturing what the Sasquatch and creatures look like from the eyewitnesses themselves. And you can check out her artwork at SybillaIrwin.com. Sybilla, welcome back.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here. Absolutely enjoying it 100%.
All right, let's continue on with one more audience question here. And let's go to Sovereign here. Sybilla, have you seen wood carving artists make something called a wood spirit? It looks like a bearded old Sasquatch or gnome type figure. If so, what do you think of this?
I have, and I think they're awesome. I've actually sculpted some of them myself.
Does it add to the presence?
I do not know. I do not know. Yeah, but
Right.
I've done that too. And a lot of people see Sasquatches with long beards, like they can't tell where the beard actually ends because it grows into the chest hair so much.
Yes, our resident artist, Dirty Filth, has that same problem with his chest hair. Yeah, and he knows he cannot speak at this time because the show is going on. All right, Nikki wants to know, do you do other drawings for art, other types of beings?
Yes, I do. I've done Dogman. I did a Mothman. It's up there in the witness sketches. And I do commissioned artwork. I've been a portrait artist for a long time. And then a lot of times someone will just send me an image. I also do logos, and it's one of the ways I support myself is I design shirts, and I'm also going to be working on a children's book. So I do graphic work as well. So, and if, like I say, someone's, I have not worked with anyone who's seen like an alien or angel. I did an angel for somebody, but yeah. So yeah, I'm open to do witness sketches for anything. Really.
Oh, I got one for you then. Two of them actually. If you want to get into aliens, we could get into aliens. We'll talk.
I would love to. Yeah, no, I'd love to. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll introduce you to Carl, and I'll introduce you to the one in the forest. Yeah.
Love it. Love that.
Yeah. Carl, back in 2015, showed up at my window while I was broadcasting this show.
Oh my goodness! I just got like a chill run through me.
Oh yeah. And Carl's only ever been back one other time. That was in 2018. So he's due to come back anytime. And then the other one was my first alien encounter with a young lady named Samantha Mowat, where 5 days after I had seen a UFO on the ground, she took me behind that area into the forest where there was extraterrestrials.
Mm-hmm.
Middle of the day. Who knew?
Oh my gosh, I would love to hear your story.
Oh yeah, we could do that. You know what? We've posted Sybilla's YouTube channel in our chat room here, and we've almost got her up to 200 subscribers already.
Oh, that's so high. That's so awesome.
We got to hit at least 200 tonight. Sybilla, I would like for you to tell us another story, because I love your story time here. And this one that I'm going to show on our YouTube channel and for our radio audience out there, it's a picturesque. It's almost a wintertime encounter where it's in the forest. There's snow everywhere, and this big hillbilly Jim wrestler type of Sasquatch comes walking on by. Sybilla, I'm going to ask you, this photograph right here, or this picture right here that is taken, tell us the story behind this one.
This was some college students, and they were, how a bunch of students will get together and they plan a big trip that they're all going to do together. I think post Christmas, how you take all your finals and you're going to plan a big party. So this was a group of people that rented a cabin all together. And I mean, it was a big group of people. And so they started arriving, and weird stuff started happening that night. And it ended up being like a really terrifying encounter, because it seemed like these things were trying to get into the house with them. And then I think even the law was called, and the law showed up. I mean, it was a really, really big deal. And it was very traumatic for some of these people who actually saw this thing. Multiple people saw this thing.
So they felt like they were being hunted.
They did. They felt like these things were trying to break in, and it was more. I think it was more than one. And I think they were trying to get to the food, like their food. I think it was trying to break in like below, like in a basement kind of area. It was it was terrifying. Like they were. I don't think they went to sleep. I think it was they were harassed basically all night long.
Oh my!
Yeah.
By some hungry Bigfoot.
Very scary. Yeah.
Let's continue on here. This one kind of looks like it's kneeling down into a tree, and it almost looks like it's wearing a ski mask. It's got the pointy head, long arms.
Yeah.
Explain this one.
That's in Oklahoma. Remember I told you that some of these Sasquatch are seen in places that almost desert-like conditions, like you wouldn't expect it. This was seen by the same guy who saw the white skinwalker. This was the same man. He's had so many encounters. It's incredible. And he's the first episode on my YouTube channel. He actually saw Sasquatch, with the spider crawl. He saw one of those coming towards him at his home. This one, he was just on a very remote oil field, kind of like property, driving through real slow, and this was just like up underneath the trees. He kind of backed up because he was like, "Did I really just see that?" And there it was. It didn't harass him or anything. It was just there, trying to hide.
Let's continue on here. Dogman.
Oh,
and I'm going to tell you right now, this picture, minus the front canine teeth, looks identical to my German Shepherd.
Yeah. And this was a harrowing experience of a husband and wife in North Carolina. They were out on this remote road headed towards trying to get to the coast. They were pulling a camper, and they're just going down the road, and he feels like, I don't know if you've ever pulled a camper before, but when it kind of surges, you notice, and that's what happened. So he pulled over, and they were just there's no lights, there's no other cars, there's no traffic. They are alone on a really isolated road. And so he gets out. He has a sidearm. He gets out and he walks to the back of his camper, and it's dented, like something hit the camper as they were driving. And then he starts to hear a sound. So he that shows his flashlight and immediately lights up this thing. And it was more than one. And this thing was crouched down behind some bushes or rocks. And then it starts to stand up, and he hears the bones popping. He said
Oh,
he said to me, as he said, it's a sound I'll never forget, like for the rest of my life. The sound of these popping bones as it stood up. And then he heard sound on his left, and then he shines a flashlight, and he's being flanked, like there's another one, and he shines it back, and then this thing is starting to move forward towards him. And he actually shot at it. No, he shot it, and he said he saw the he saw the percussion, he saw the dust of the hair. And then of course he runs, gets back in the truck, and he throws it. He said he said he was shaking so bad he could just barely drive. And his wife, she heard the shot, so she's like, screaming, "What's the matter? What happened? What happened?" And so he he's gunning it, and he looks in his rearview mirror, and he can see that he's being flanked on both sides by they were on all fours, and they're chasing them. They're chasing him, and he just, when you're pulling a trailer, you've got that weight, so it takes you a longer time to get up to speed. But eventually, he saw that they were slowing down and that they peeled off. But oh my gosh, what a harrowing experience! I just
oh
can't.
my. And where was that experience?
I think it was North Carolina, towards the coast, like way out in the boonies, way out in the boonies.
Incredible.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about this one here. Looks like
Mhm.
South East or
That's
North
Oklahoma.
Texas sighting, I guess,
That's
or
in
Oklahoma.
That's in Oklahoma. That's a juvenile that
So this one here,
multiple. Go ahead.
go ahead.
This was a juvenile that multiple people saw. This was in Honeby, that same place where all of that stuff had gone down, where I got zapped with infrasound, and where um, there was an investigator that was building a cabin just literally catty corner from where that Honeby massacre happened. And multiple people kept seeing this little guy, and he was just curious. Like he just kept poking his head, he'd poke his head out from behind a rock and watch them. And it was the cutest thing. The neat thing about this one is I did this sketch for one witness, and then I got to, the other witness that saw it on a different occasion, showed him the same image, and they're like, yeah, that's exactly what I saw. So it was really cool. So it was validated by more than one witness.
Very interesting.
Look how inquisitive. And I always try to capture, if people tell me that that they saw an expression, which a lot of people do, I really like to try to capture that. That's North Texas.
Let's talk about this North Texas sighting.
This is an incredible sighting. All of them are just so incredible. This man had a farm. He was he was headed outside to feed his chickens. He had some like special prize chickens, and he was heading out the door, and he got 2 or 3 steps outside the door, and this thing was standing on the other side of his fence. And of course, it was big. I mean, look at the chest on that thing. 3.5 feet to 4 feet across at the shoulders. And he just slowly backs into his house, and he closes the door, and he looks out the window, and it's just kind of standing there slightly swaying. And he doesn't know what to do. I mean, it never occurred to him to grab a camera. He's just so in shock. He fixes himself a cup of coffee, and he sits down at the table, and he's just hoping it's going to go away. And then he thinks, oh my gosh, what if it hurts my chickens? So he gets up from the table, he goes and look, and it's still there. It's kind of backed away from the fence, and he's watching. It's doing something, and it's squatted down now, and he said, what I realized is it had like a root of some kind, and it has a rock, and it's beating that root with that rock, like trying to soften it or something. And so the thought occurs to him, maybe this thing is just hungry. So he had a bunch of, some like new potatoes. So he grabbed a bunch of new potatoes and he started putting them all in his pocket, and he grabbed his shotgun and he walks out the front door, and it's there, and it kind of looks up at him, and he takes a few steps out, and then he grabs one of those potatoes and he throws it over the fence, and it stood up and it walked over and it picked up the potato, and he said he smelt it and licked it, and then it popped it in his mouth and he ate it. So that's when he figured it's just hungry. So then he threw all the other potatoes, to it, and it picked them all up, and then it turned around and started to walk away, and then it took a few steps and it stopped, and then it turned, and they can't turn their necks very well. It turned its whole torso around, and it just nodded at him, and then it turned and left. And he sold the whole farm.
That's actually beautiful.
Yeah, and he had grandchildren that used to be on this farm. So like a month later, he sold the property and moved away because he was scared of what it might do if it came back. He was afraid it might hurt his grandchildren.
Right.
But incredible story. And he was part Native American, this man that saw this. Amazing
Either
story.
way, a very beautiful story. Let's get back to a couple more audience questions, if you don't mind.
I do not mind.
Let's go to Joe here, who is asking, this is funny because we always bug our weekend host Grant about his beautiful mustache that he has. Okay. And he's asking, has Bigfoot ever been seen with a mustache like Grant's? Oh, Joe. Grant's lip blade there is not a Sasquatch on this continent that could match Grant's mustache. Now, if you went to Iran, where the Iron Sheik was from, where they get the nice curve, or at Paris, yeah, Grant's toast. You get a Sasquatch with a nice curly Q mustache, that is the type of Sasquatch I want to see. All right, let's go to Sovereign here. There is more traction gaining amongst investigators about Sasquatch shifting footprints between Sasquatch, Dogman, and other forms. What do you think of this?
So he's saying that the Sasquatch are shifting footprints?
Yes.
So like the Sasquatch are shape-shifting?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I've long held the thought that maybe some of what people are seeing are actually just posing as Sasquatch, and they're not really Sasquatch at all. Maybe they are shape-shifting to maybe the Sasquatch is less intimidating than some dogmen. I don't know. And do I believe things can shapeshift? Yes, I do. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for that. What do you think the Dogman is? Do you think we're dealing with werewolves here or a different type of creature?
I had an incredible experience with a man back in the late 90s who had been in all sorts of black ops programs. And when I met him, within the very first time I met him and I were talking about UFOs within like 30 minutes. And so I knew this was going to be like a very important relationship for me, because I have very few people in my life that I could talk about those kind of things with back in the late 90s. This man told me stories that now have gone mainstream, but this back in the 90s, he was telling me things about the treaties and things that were signed, that Eisenhower signed. He was telling me things about the UFOs hovering over the nuclear sites. And he told me this story. The crazy thing is at the time I was like, either this man is absolutely off his rocker nuts or all of this is true. But none of this was out yet. And he told me a story about he was part of a team that had to go down to South America and kill some biological creature, some created creatures that were created to be soldiers of war that had gotten loose from a facility in South America that him and his team literally had to go down and kill because they were wiping out a village of people.
It's very strange that you mentioned this story, and I'm like goosebumping right now, is Jody Cook, the creator of the North American Dogman Project.
Yes, I know Jody.
After one of our shows, he actually had a gentleman talk to him about that exact same story. Was part of that team.
Yeah, now I've got chills. Yeah, and the crazy thing is that he said they had like armor plating. The plating here is so you can't shoot them with a regular gun. Like the only way to kill them was with a laser. And you
Yes.
can imagine hearing this back in the 90s thinking this is insane. But one of the things he said that stuck with me forever is that he said, I will never forget as long as I live the scream that these things make whenever you're killing them. So I don't know what dogmen are, but that story always hangs up in me. Are these creatures that were unleashed? Are they multidimensional? Like some people believe the whole UFO thing. They're not from off world. They're just from a different dimension. A lot of people. I don't know. I absolutely do not know.
Yeah, I have no idea whatsoever if we're dealing with werewolves, bipedal canines, dealing with relatives of Anubis. I really don't know or understand. I know they've been seen in my area, where I am east of our headquarters here in British Columbia. I know the area. I've been too chicken to go up there because I don't want that encounter, but I know I have to. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. It would be hard for me too. I mean, if I knew there was an area that I could go to and have a likely sighting, especially if it was from a safe distance, I'm like you, I probably would go. Yeah.
We have 90 seconds left. Sybilla, thank you for a wonderful, wonderful evening. And I really appreciate this. We're going to have to do this again. We definitely are. And I'm wondering if you could tell everybody where they can find your website, where they can find your YouTube channel, and how they can get a hold of you.
You can get a hold of me on Facebook, just at Sybilla. I have Sketching Encounters on Facebook, and I also just Sybilla Irwin there on Facebook. But you can definitely go to SybillaIrwin.com and go to the About page, or to reach me. Just click on that, and then you can email me. And I check my email 2 or 3 times a day, and that's how a lot of witnesses find me. Is just send me a note and just tell me that I'd like to have a sketch done. I do not charge witnesses for sketches because people didn't ask for it. So I just love working with people, and I love helping people. Just want to be of service to people who've had these encounters.
Well, I think that's pretty admirable of what you are doing, and I think you are creating a new way of investigating that has never really been done before, at least not that I have heard. And I think you need to be commended for combining your two loves of art and Sasquatch or cryptids together. I think it's fantastic. Sybilla, thank you so much for coming on Spaced Out Radio. I very much appreciate you doing that. And, we're going to do it again. I promise you that our team will get a hold of you, and we'll do it all again. Coming up next in hour number 3, we're going to head to the swamp. Our resident swamp dweller comes in for a spooky story. Then it's Super Duke time on the Cryptid Report, followed by Dave 101. Yeah, it's that time of week again. And Shirky Poo's News. Spaced Out Radio's Hour 3 is next. We'll be right back. Great show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I
Great show.
look forward to coming back. And thank you for all your help with the subscribers. I appreciate that.
No problem. Don't forget to add us to your channel, too.
And yeah, I absolutely will. Yeah.
All right. You take care.
Thank you and good night.
Good night. Sybilla Irwin, everyone. She's amazing. Just amazing. We need more people like that. We really do. And here's Dirty Filth's art for the night. Take it away, Filthy Poo.
I have to put the little bit less crooked in there. Well, there's just not enough room. I apologize. There we go. Hold on a second. I get an eraser over here. We'll put that sucker right there, and that's not going to hold it, is it? No. I'll just have to put my finger there. Oh, look at that. So we've got Sasquatch and the skunk ape. The skunk ape is grumpy because he lives where it's really hot, and he's stinky, and he can't get a good shower or bath or anything. So Sasquatch suggests that he tries the moose juice shampoo. Should work. That's why. That's my opinion of why I think people think that the skunk ape is angry, because he's in a hot area and he's sweating and he's really hairy. I'd be grumpy if that was me. Thanks, Marlena. Good God, I butchered your name. I apologize. Thank you, Wild Man. I appreciate all the kind words. Excuse me. Whoop. Oh, boy. It's happening again. Ugh. Well, I've got a great follow-up cartoon for tomorrow as well. Stink lines, Filthy. Stink lines. Oh, yeah. Put some stink lines in there. Well, he's kind of in the... Yeah, we'll give him some stink lines. I was thinking of having him relatively clean, but... Great. Now the cats have shown up. Look what you guys have done. Nobody cares, Whiskey. She's not actually hungry. She's perfectly well fed. A couple flies there. The flies help you know that they're stinky. That fly only had one wing. The one-wing wonder fly. Oh, I'm excited to draw the cartoon tomorrow. See if I could time travel. I wouldn't actually go forward. I'd go back to the old place that had the great hot wings. That's what I do. Yeah, it's pretty much all done there. Yeah, one more fly, maybe an extra stink line just for good measure. Look at him, he's just slimy, greasy. It's because he hasn't actually used the moose juice yet. There we go. I only shower on my birthday. Look at that. Wolfman art. Yes, I haven't done a Dogman for a while. They were talking about Dogman versus Sasquatch earlier. I have a cartoon about that, but I don't know if I can share it on the show to show people, because I use some wrestling personalities on it, and I don't know about the wonkiness of YouTube. So, but nonetheless, though, I got to do that. I always figured they should have like a championship battle league of Dogman, Sasquatch, and like Siren Head and the Gnome, and a whole like wrestling league of cryptids. That'd be so cool. But overall, I think that Dogman would probably lose against Sasquatch in a battle, but Sasquatch would probably die from the like slice wounds and whatnot from Dogman, because I figured Dogman would probably be a little quicker, but in the end, the brute force would overtake, and Sasquatch would like fold him over his kneecap. He'd be like terminated. Anyways, now
Hey,
my
Dirty.
imagination's running away. And oh, hey, Dave, good. You're just in time to stop me from rambling way too much about cryptids pummeling the lives out of each other and Dogman getting snapped over Sasquatch's knee. And anyways,
It's a beautiful piece tonight. Beautiful
thanks.
piece.
Tomorrow's
what
going
are
to be
they
good too.
What are they drinking there?
Well, that's shampoo.
Oh, that's the shampoo.
It's the moose juice shampoo.
Nice. Very, very nice. That's why we love you, buddy.
Well, I love doing this. Can't wait for tomorrow.
Well, I bet.
Might even have to draw out cartoons on the weekend too. Who knows?
Filth, Tony wants to know if you've ever drawn a rake, also known as a crawler.
I have not, but I can draw one definitely. Probably be good friends with the California Nightcrawler.
Probably. Wonder if they wear the same pants.
They might. The Man in Black will make sure that they don't mess around too much with stealing clothes and off clotheslines. That's just mean.
All right, Filth, we're going to say goodnight to you. Hour 3 is going to start here in 5 seconds. Thank you to Grant, Stephen, YJ, and Simon for the super chats. Here we go, everyone.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you so much for joining us. We very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Abiratate. Abiratate is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. It is time once again. We're going to head into the swamp. Our resident swamp dweller has another spooky story for us.
Hi, Spaced Out Radio listeners. This is Swamp Dweller. It's time for your nightly dose of spookiness on the show. If you have an interesting encounter or a spooky story that you would like to share, be sure to submit them in at swampdweller.net. You can also find our YouTube channel at youtube.com/swampdwellerreads. Now, let's chill out, relax, and together, let's enter the swamp. I thought I'd share one of the creepiest experiences I've ever had, though not the only experience I've had with the supernatural. Around 2001, I was 8 years old. My brothers were 5 and 1, respectively. We moved from Johannesburg to a town called Heidelberg. The house we moved into was a rather beautiful area, big by our standards. For context, the lounge, entertaining room, dining room, office, and 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, kitchen, and washroom were all relatively big. That made the passage long. It was in the restroom, and the path that the presence was always the strongest. I felt scared from the first moment we moved in, and it until all 3 of us came into foster care. As far as I know, it's still there. For the most part, we just felt intense fear and a feeling that someone was following us and trying to hurt us. At first, my mother kept saying I was spooking myself and imagining things, and my stepdad was completely atheist and didn't believe in anything paranormal. After that, I didn't mention it again, but we always ran down the passage and never walked. Every time I had to force myself down that hallway for whatever reason, as I ran, I felt like something was literally at my heels, breathing down my neck. After a few months, my mother figured out that we never went into the washroom, no matter what, and it became her new favorite punishment for us. She would lock us in there, switch off the lights outside the room, and leave us there overnight. It was adequate for a while, but eventually it backfired because we ended up growing up past fear into just not caring anymore. About 2 years later, we went into foster care, and my parents stayed in that house. Close to the end of my last year in high school, they had to sell the place due to financial issues due to destructive lifestyles. My stepdad told me a few years later that on the last night he stayed there, to switch off the pool pump and everything at the main switch, etc., he felt the thing clear as day. He said it was the darkest thing he had ever felt, and there was no doubt that it wanted him dead. As he said, he didn't believe in anything paranormal that couldn't really be proven. Not God, not demons, nothing. Even he admitted that there was something there, some sort of dark, evil presence. We still don't know what it was, but we know exactly what it wants. I would give the address, but other people have moved in, so I can't breach their privacy. Thanks for taking these stories, Swamp Dweller. It's good to share it with other people. Hey Swamp Dweller, my name is Rose. I've been listening to your channel for about a year now, and I feel like I should share my story. This happened to me over many years. I was 6 years old when it started, and 9 years old when it ended. A few paranormal things happened to me. I hope it's alright to share them. When I was 6 years old, I lived in a small town in Alberta, Canada. This house was haunted, and kids in my village refused to come into my house, telling me their parents wouldn't allow them because it was evil. I didn't believe them until middle of summer. My room was set up so my door was on the bottom wall. My bed was on the left wall, and my dresser was a beautiful chestnut color mirror above it. I remember waking up in the middle of the night, not sure why, looking in my mirror and seeing a black figure sitting beside me. I looked at the space where the figure should have been, then back at the mirror, and it was standing up. It looked at me with deep red eyes, and I booked it out of there. I was sobbing, telling my parents what happened. My mother believed me, and we did a cleansing. I didn't see it for quite some time, but I knew it was watching me from a distance. When I was 8 years old, my mother and I went to another small town called Vulcan. My grandmother lived there and brought a ghost back with us. Her name was Sarah. I could see her and hear her, and she was looking for her mommy. I couldn't find her. I said she could come home with us, and I think she did. I made her a bed on my floor every single night, and the pillow had a small dent in the morning, like someone had been laying there. Called her my sister, played games. She came with me to daycare, asked her to scratch my back, and I would literally feel my shirt move. And the girls I was showing all screamed and said I was cursed. We found out that Sarah's mother lived at my grandma's home and passed away. When we found that out, I told Sarah she needed to be with her mother, because that's where she was waiting. I haven't seen Sarah since then. When I was older, I did some more digging and found out Sarah was murdered. It was May Day when all the small towns got together and did those little carnivals, and someone took her from it and murdered her. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if she had stayed with me.
And we say thank you to the Swamp Dweller for coming on in once again, as he does every Monday through Friday, taking us on a journey of spookiness. Now, if you want more Swamp Dweller stories, got to head to his YouTube channel, youtube.com/Swamp Dweller Reads, and he's got thousands that are right there for your enjoyment, all for free. Check it on out today. We love the Swamp Dweller around here. You know who else we love? We love Super Duke from World Bigfoot Radio as he comes in for the Cryptid Report. Super Duke, it's always good when you are back in the house, hanging on out with us with the Cryptid Report. How you doing?
Howdy, Big Sky. Howdy. Hope everybody's doing good tonight. And that first story from Swamp Dweller was pretty creepy there. You know, that's one of those modern cryptids, the laundry room monster. It's some kind of a dire wraith that lives in your dryer. And it feeds on two things, your raw fear and socks. So if socks start disappearing out of your dryer, you might have a dryer wraith. Get ready.
You know,
Do an exorcism.
a friend of mine named Corey, when she lived in this town, she went downstairs she lived in a duplex. And on her side, she owned her side of the duplex. The other people owned the other side. And she went downstairs to do laundry. And as she turned the corner to go into her laundry room or down the hall, which was maybe 5-6 feet to enter the laundry room, this little Ewok little thing comes walking out of her laundry room. And they both kind of stopped and stared at each other. The Ewok made this little ee type sound, took off back into the laundry room. And when she went in there, because curiosity, but she still got her laundry to do. And what the hell is that in my laundry room? It was gone. Gone.
Oh, what the hell?
There in that laundry room, there was the washer, dryer, and a closet. And as it turned the corner, that's where the closet was.
Uh-huh.
And it was gone.
It could be a closet. Yeah, it could have been a portal in the closet there. That might not be a dryer wraith.
Yes. No, I don't think it's a dryer wraith.
So weird. That always freaks me
out.
Right. There's way too many kids that talk about the monster in the closet. And, how do they all come up with that? There's got to be something to it.
I hear you, my friend. I hear you. But what is that? That's the big thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of those unknown weird cryptid things that people just see weird things. And it's like, how do you ID something like that? What appears in your laundry room and then vanishes again? Was it cloaking? Was there a portal in there? Was it just an astral form? Was something making you think that you were seeing something that wasn't there? There's just way too many options. So hard to make hide or hair of things like that. Hey, great having Sybilla on. She is freaking awesome.
Yep.
She has
Fantastic.
been indirectly involved with my show before. She did the artwork for Kevin Lang of his buddy Glag from the most epic Bigfoot story ever, the Glag Saga, that appeared on my channel a few years ago. And I'm sure most all the Bigfooters in the audience are well aware of it. But yep, she did the early Glag illustrations, and then Rob Roy Menzies, famed Alaskan illustrator, did the adult Glag illustrations. So she is incredibly well known, has done really, really great illustrations of not only classical encounters, but lots of people, like she was talking about tonight, actually come to her with their stories, and she works closely with them for days or weeks, sometimes months, sending rough drafts back and forth, and they look at them and go, no, this isn't exactly right. And then she draws another version, and it's very time consuming, but she gets them exactly to what the witness says that's what it looked like.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
Just amazing.
She is amazing. And, we need more people in the community that want to be helpful and do things like that. So hats off to her and her helpfulness. So do we want to hear some more about Bigfoot here tonight?
We totally do, my friend. What do you got for us? Because we only got you till the bottom of the hour.
Well, we're going to go down south to Arizona and New Mexico and the Navajo Nation, which I've had several guests from the Navajo Nation on my show that are natives and Bigfoot researchers. The tribal term, according to this, Yeitzo, sometimes spelled Yeitzo, was originally a Navajo term in the general area of Arizona, New Mexico borders, but used by elders of other nations in the Southwest and some white people as well. To some, it translates something really monstrous, and that's pretty close. According to Navajo legend, one Yeitzo was at one time a people-eating monster, a cannibal that was greatly feared, who lay in wait to take and hold captive tribal women of childbearing age. The semi-nomadic Navajo sheep herders gave an account saying upright walking hare people, note not the same name, would come in the night, reach over stick-fenced corrals to steal sheep, but only at given times of the year when, quote, the sun creates shadows that lay long ways on the ground. That's winter. We know Yeitzo is near because there's a great disturbance within the herd, a lot of bleating by the sheep and goats, and barking herding dogs. We can do nothing but keep the lower pastures with a watchful eye. The big Yietzo comes and shreds away the wool hide from the body of the sheep and leaves it for the Indian shepherd, making off the bleeding carcass. In a similar report, the creature left behind the carcass of a dead ewe and carried it away, a live lamb bleeding for its mother. The informants of the Yietzo left footprints the length of 2 bolt wrenches. His trail twisted and turned into like the snake to higher ground in an area where the Chusca Mountains meet the Carrizo mountain range of Colorado. Quote, the Yietzo lives in high mountain caves. He comes down here to where he must, we must water the ewes. The walk is long from the high range, but Yietzo is a great walker, of course, gigantic. He brings gifts that are not natural to the Navajo people. A loud whistle signals my people he is here. And of course, I've heard Bigfoot whistle lots. We are glad to share the food with them in hard winters because they don't take more than their family needs. They will not eat with us. One winter, my great-great-grandfather, the Bear Man, which is another name for him, left us a great pile of pine needles, meadow lupin, sun-baked nuts, dried berries, and some kind of strange fish meat not common to this area. The Hare women are great weavers of pine needle baskets. The sap keeps away the insects, and the berries of the spring season are dried and stored in pine containers. It was a great mystery to my family before the time came. The Yietzo people talk among themselves in the language of the northern tribes. The language is unknown to my father and the elders of my people, but our fathers before us signed with them, sign language, and it was agreeable. The Yietzo men bring their children and wash them in the narrow brook. They teach them to swim before they walk, and then they are gone when the long shadows become short and the wind becomes warm. The old ones say that saw them for a season, and then for the rainbow season, spring, they go somewhere else, maybe to high country where the strange fish come from. But for us, the bear people sometimes come down and winter with us. Now, let me deconstruct that a little bit. Yietzo is not their name for Bigfoot. I don't know how this keeps going in. I think maybe some of them are doing it on purpose just to confuse people. But Yietzo is actually the name of a huge cannibal giant that once frequented the area and was known to actually prey on the Navajo people and demand tributes from them. And when occasionally he decided that he wanted to eat one, he would just have them indicate which one he was going to eat. If they didn't do that, he'd come down and eat somebody random. So you can imagine what that was like. Okay, the giant's going to come and eat somebody now, and we got to pick who it is, or he'll just come down and take somebody random. Who's the biggest jerk in the area that we want to get rid of? You know where this is going, right, Dave? Emergency Dink would have been picked right off the bat. He would have been gone. Yietzo would have ate him. But Yietzo was not a Bigfoot. He was a classic red-haired Lovelock cave type giant that would eat people. And he even had his own saying that he had, which is, when I catch you, I'm going to tear you into little pieces and boil you underground.
Nice.
And that's very well known. So when they're talking about Yietzo here, what they're mistranslating as is just random giant. Okay, these guys are all hairy giants, are giants too. And as Caveman would point out, he calls them the Hastins Istloi, which in Navajo means big man of the mountains. And he is under no illusions that they're giants or giant humans, because he's been interacting with them since he was a little kid. So he knows what they're actually like, and they're not big cannibal giants, but they're, very, they act very primitive like. And this additional information here is interesting because that's some of the things that he's confirmed too about their movement patterns in the area. They're around more in the winter, and then when it starts getting hotter, they go back up into the mountains again. So you don't usually see them around the areas that the Navajo tend to frequent.
So what kind of relationship are we stuck with now?
Well, the relationship runs the gamut, as it usually does. On reservations, you have a lot more activity than you usually do on non-tribal lands for whatever peculiar reason. And as Caveman has noticed, that some of the closer interactions, and especially the more peaceful ones, tend to be between the Hastine, as he calls them, and the people that are living more traditional lifestyles. If they're living in the old, baked adobe Hogan dug partway out of the ground and they don't have any electricity or running water or something like that, out in the middle of nowhere. And there are still people that are living like that in the old traditional way there on the reservation. They're a lot more likely to have that kind of activity around where they live. And it tends to be fairly benign. Ones that run into a lot of trouble are the ones that, again, like they were saying in their traditional talking about it, sheep herders and stuff like that have a lot of game around. Occasionally they'll show up as if, they deserve some extra munchies and they're going to grab them. In Caveman's case, they don't usually mess around with his livestock. They were eating the horse feed and drinking out of the horse's water trough and scaring the horses. That was really the only problem he was having with them.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like a pretty decent relationship.
Well, for the most part, they've been, getting along fairly well for a long time. The natives know that they're there. They're not super scared of them. Some of them are pretty damn scared of them. But for the most part, they know that it's just one of those things that are around and avoid them. And if they start becoming a nuisance, then you got to call one of the locals in the tribe that knows what the heck's going on to come help you with it. Or if you really can't figure it out, then you call the Navajo police and the Navajo Rangers. Because unlike in some parts of the quote-unquote real world, they actually show up when you call with weird reports like this, and they will investigate them. And because of that, they've actually learned some pretty interesting stuff. There was a lecture given by one of the members of the Navajo Rangers talking about some of the stuff they found when they went out on call. And it was pretty hair-raising. And, there's been several times that they've had to consult with Caveman and ask him about specifics about things they were running into that they weren't sure about. So, this is a lot different working relationship than what you got in most of the United States, where it's off reservation lands.
Oh, for sure. Duke, we got 2 minutes to go here. In your estimate, when people and let's say everyday people, not people such as yourself who are out going looking for the Sasquatch, but when people are starting to have those homebound encounters with Sasquatch, what do you recommend as a researcher that they do? Like we heard Sybilla right before the end talk about how a guy had was feeding a Sasquatch potatoes, but a month later he sold his farm because he didn't want his grandchildren to accidentally be taken by this thing.
Yeah, and then what happens to who buys the farm next? Sasquatch going to come beating on the door wanting potatoes. See, that's the problem. If you're not communicating with them, don't feed them anything. Gifting them is okay. They can play with whatever it is that you want to give them, and sometimes they'll give you things that you're wondering where they're getting them from. And the answer is they don't understand the concept of ownership. And if they can find it anywhere, they can pick it up and walk off with it because nobody owns anything, right? No, we think that's stealing. But they'll think it's a gift they're giving to you. So there's like all sorts of difficulties and complications in trying to deal with these beings because the way they operate and how they look at things is completely different than the way we look at it. Like we understand when we get something, it's because we had to work for it and it took some effort. And now we kind of want to keep it. And maybe we don't want anybody just randomly walking off with it. They don't get that. They don't have concept of ownership. So if they like you, weird things might start showing up at your gifting area too. Like, hey, where'd somebody's beautiful new canteen come from? Or, where'd this game cam come from?
Right. All right, Duke, 40 seconds. Tell everybody where they can find World Bigfoot Radio.
Oh, you can find me over on YouTube. I'm also on BitChute, Odyssey, Bright Eon, and Rumble. And I have support groups on Facebook, World Bigfoot Central, and Montana Bigfoot Project, where the people want to keep up to date on what's happening in Montana. And I urge you to go over to my MeWe group, World Bigfoot Central, MeWe Free Speech Platform, no censorship. Come on over. I'm on there all the time. You can get a hold of me fast.
All right, Super Duke from World Bigfoot Radio. All right, when we come back from the bottom of the hour break, we're going to get into something that's kind of been bugging me. Is the UFO world eating their own? I don't know. We'll hear it next on the Dave 101 on Spaced Out Radio. Stay tuned. We got another half hour left of tonight's great show. How you doing, Super Duke? No, where'd he go? Super Duke, disappearing Duke. Super Duke's disappearing Duke. That's all I gotta say. Super Duke, Super Duke. Good night, Super Duke. By the way, Eric with a K, if you're listening. You're back to number 4 or number 5. I can guarantee we're back to number 4 and number 5. Can you believe, everyone, that Eric with a K in a different chat room today that I was watching the show, when SOR came out, he said that I'm a sellout. I'm a sellout. This is why we're his 5th favorite show. Just a couple of weeks ago, because he changes his top show like he does his underwear, about once a week. We were his number 1 show. And now all of a sudden, apparently, we're sellouts here. And, yeah. That's Eric with a K. So we're back to number 5. Maybe 6. I don't know. So I'm going to tell you now, he is now my 4th or 5th or 6th favorite fan. That's it. That's how we do it. Hello, Aunt Edna. Super Quest. How you doing, bud? Super Duke, Super Duke. Yep. Well, it had to do with the UFO world, and because I'm a fan of Lou Elizondo's, that I'm now a sellout. Barry Brown, how are you? UFO world's so funny. We'll talk about it here in a moment. What grinds Dave's gears? Get off my lawn! Super Duke, Super Duke. Here we go. We rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. It is time once again to tell you what's grinding my gears. Get off my lawn, people. It's the Dave 101.
It's time for Dave 101.
There's a lot of drama going on in the UFO world right now, and I think journalist Jazz Shaw said it's best tonight. He tweeted out back on August 28th, "For a long time, I ignored those who said that all the recent apparent progress in ufology, quote, end quote, would be wiped away when the community once again fell into feeding on itself. I laughed, and now I feel like an idiot." This comment was made because a gentleman who has been on our show before, Lou Jimenez, with a very popular afternoon UFO show called Unidentified Celebrity Review, decided to pack it in today on his YouTube channel, said he had enough of the UFO world, too much drama, too much BS, lies, conspiracy, and everything in between. Well, the focus isn't going to be on Lou quitting as much as it is we lost a very big talent in this field. And whether you love him or whether you hate him, that's your choice. But the idea behind this is Lou had a very large following of listeners, both live and in archive. And he was able to garner major interviews with major people inside the UFO world who would tell him what's going on. However, over time, he didn't feel comfortable with the messages he had been getting from people in this field. Now, you can break that down any way you want. I suggest that if you want, go listen to his show. But here's the thing about this field. We are ready to slaughter anybody who has a differing opinion, a different take, a different support. And frankly, the community has had enough of each other. And maybe it's best that we all take a step back from the drama of UFO Twitter, those who are trying to cancel those others that they don't like and vice versa. Or maybe we're all getting played. Who's playing us? We don't know, but we do know there is a very big game of chess happening at the Pentagon and at the DOD, the Department of Defense in the United States, that is trying to really control the narrative. This is why, over the last number of months, I've been telling all of our listeners who have taken great detail in the UFO world to take a step back and analyze what you are seeing. And is this going to be a benefit to what is going on? Is this a benefit to the community? Is it a benefit to ufology? Or is it a nail in its coffin? Look, there is no arguing the fact that there are dozens, if not hundreds of people working on this in military positions, spy positions, alphabet agency positions that would love all of us to go away and not talk UFOs. They don't want the news coming out. They don't want meetings. They don't want any of us to be a part of it. Why? Because we're dealing with a phenomena that is much bigger than our little brains can imagine. And for the most part, that's true. Most of us can't even figure out that the paranormal, supernatural, and UFO are all entwined and reconnected with each other. That is true. There's going to be people who argue that, but it's because they don't believe that it is. The proof is in the pudding. Why do we see Sasquatch on UFOs? Why do we see Sasquatch disappear? Why do we have near-death experiences from emergency rooms where the patient, who is clinically dead, is actually looking down and can explain afterwards what the doctors did to them and where the nurses were, where her parents or her cousins or siblings were? That's the way it goes. It is all interconnected. You don't have to like it, but this story is a lot bigger than what we can comprehend. There is no controlling the phenomena. The phenomena will act the way it wants to act. It will have people become angry. It will set people off. It will give people experiences of a lifetime. It will depress you. It will give you anxiety. It will take away your money, but then lead you to riches in other ways. The phenomena controls all. And we need to start realizing that with everything put together, we don't know one penny's worth of what truly is going on. This is why we see people hacking and slashing at each other on social media, making up lies to ruin people's credit, making up stories to ruin people's reputations, following those rumors rather than picking up the phone and just saying, hey, what's really going on? We don't do that anymore because we're too cool for school, man. We don't want to, get in touch and kill the drama. And hey, I will say this. I have been a part of it. But I'm trying to get better. Instead of falling for those storylines, I want to talk to people. I want people to know that if I screwed up, I am sorry. I recently did this with a friend of mine, Rich Giordano from GoofOn. Now, I may not agree with what he broadcasts or how he talks about people, but we have to understand that there is a very, very big difference between the man in front of the microphone and the man who doesn't have a microphone on. And that was the person I missed. We have to be able to apologize when we're wrong. But in this community, we're too high and tight, especially the UFO community, that we don't have time for apologies. We don't have time to hear the understandings of both sides of the story. No, we just want to get people to the curb. And for that, we end up losing talented people like Lou Jimenez, who really didn't want to leave his show, but felt he had no choice, whether you agree with it or whether you don't. There is situations going on in ufology right now that none of us understand. It's political. It's diabolical. It's filled with spies. It's filled with harassments. The ugly side of ufology. You know what? It almost reminds me of that scene in Zoolander where they talk about the dark side of being a male model. Well, we're talking about the dark side of ufology. The problem is we haven't had the walk-off just yet. So who would you want in your walk-off? I have come out supporting people like Lou Elizondo, Chris Mellon, in the past Sean Cahill, still do, Gary Nolan, and others who are trying to move the ball forward. And that's without being politically correct. Now, have I seen evidence of things that I don't like in the field from certain game players? Sure, I have. This is an ugly field. And this is why I relate to our audience all the time. If you're not comfortable with what you're seeing, take a step back. Read between the lines. How many times have I taken crap over that on social media? What do you mean by that, Dave? There's always a story within a story. You don't have to worry about what the words are saying or the quotes are saying, but feel the words. Feel what they mean. Those ones tell you a story. Because right now I can tell you, I'm not ready to walk off. I'm not ready to have a walk off. I don't even have a blazer jacket that I could throw over my shoulder just for that quick hip turn. And yes, I can turn to the left. Without Magnum, though. But the idea behind it is the more that people complain and refuse to have real human-to-human conversations, the more we're going to see this happen. Look, we know there's games being played, governments within governments, Canada and the United States, the Five Eyes, which includes US, Canada, Britain, Australia, and New Zealand for security protection within the Atlantic or the Pacific Ocean. We know that the phenomena is here. We know we're being played, and the chances of us actually seeing anything from the United States government, from crash retrievals to longer videos, are slim to none, because the powers that be do not want to give it up. They do not want us playing in their sandbox, and their sandbox includes a lot of fun toys. Toys that me, at 49 years old, will never see, and likely my 9-year-old boy will never see. That's what we're dealing with. That's what we're fighting for. Disclosure? No, disclosure isn't going to happen. It's not about disclosure. It's about confirmation of what is going on, where there's the potential that the rich get richer and the rest of us just keep feeding off the little nuggets that they feed us. That's what it's all about. Right now, is it about the phenomena? No. Is it about aliens? I really don't think so anymore. I used to, but I don't think so now. Right now, I think it's about positioning, confirming that the phenomena is real, and how they're going to deal with it if they can. But of course, that will all be behind closed doors. It's not about Roswell. It's not about Tic Tacs from 2004 and the USS Nimitz. No, this is about factions and groups trying to position themselves to where they can cash in. And all you have to do is look. They're right there. Who they are, I can't tell you. I know me and my team are still trying to put it together. But if it smells like fish, it tastes like fish, it's definitely going to be fish. Where that cliche came from, I have no idea, but it seemed like it would fit. So before we lose anybody else, whether you love them or you hate them, learn the story. Learn why they're leaving. Because this is a good field with very good people, very smart people, and very educated people around them. Educated with experience or educated with university scientific knowledge. But the one thing that we need to start doing is coming together, working for each other, rather than trying to tear people new ones on social media, on YouTube, or elsewhere. Can it happen? Only in a perfect world, because we know there's always got to be that one or two people who ruin it for each all. And that's what we're seeing now. So for our audience who loves UFOs, my suggestion to you, more watching, more listening, less talking. Because in the end of this Dave 101, we don't know where we're going with UFOs, if they're even still on the table and part of the conversation. And that is your Dave 101. If you're on YouTube or you watch this on YouTube, do me a favor, leave a message below. Let me know what you think. I'm very curious. And for that, I say good night, because it's time for Shirky Poo's News.
What time is it?
It's time for Shirky Poo's News!
Yeah, Shirky Poo's News. We're going to start off in the United Kingdom, where there's another Loch Ness Monster sighting that has been logged after a local resident claimed to have seen the sea monster swimming for 7 minutes. Although it may seem like we get a new Nessie sighting every couple of weeks, well, the official Loch Ness Monster sightings register, the most recent one is only the 5th of this year, with the second most recent being in April. April seems to be a pretty busy month for the monster, with 3 sightings in total, so that might be why she took a little bit of a breather underwater the last few months. This Nessie spotted was on the 27th. As a listing about the sighting explains, a local resident was on the hill above Loch Ness when they saw a wake moving against prevailing currents from Loch End in the direction of Drumnadrochit. There was no visible cause for the wake. The sighting lasted 7 minutes, and they took video footage of it. Of course, there are many reasons for people to doubt the existence of Loch Ness Monster, not because the image captured tends to look like they've been shot with a potato, but also because the beast appears to have a long neck and a smaller head, much like a plesiosaur, meaning it wouldn't be able to survive in the Loch Ness because it's a saltwater creature. No, they disproved that. That's terrible writing. Terrible writing. So you ruined your whole story that way, Mr. Journalist. Ruined it. Now, normally I don't like stories like this, but this one's odd. A 78-year-old woman was forced out physically of a New York City taxi by its driver. Why? Well, she allegedly tried to steal the phone. Yeah. The incident was caught on video and posted on Twitter and shows the driver yanking the woman out of the back seat and closing the door as she lay on the street trying to defend herself with her cane. The woman had requested the Access A-Ride vehicle to take her to a physical therapy appointment, but when she noticed the driver got past her stop, she claimed he wouldn't stop the car and let her out, police were told. Yeah, the two argued before he dragged her out of his vehicle by a leg. Yeah, police said the witness tried to intervene and noticed the driver had the victim's cell phone in his hand and was able to get the phone back. That's when the driver turned and fled in his vehicle. Oh, it was her phone, okay. Striking the Good Samaritan, who was trying to block him from fleeing. Something tells me this guy's going to lose his job over this. The cab driver is still on the loose, but Flatbush Shoreham Safety Patrol, a volunteer organization dedicated to aiding the New York Police Department in their investigation of crimes in the Flatbush area in Brooklyn, shared a photo of the attacker's face and license plate. Yeah, this guy's getting fired. Never mind some jail time, he's getting fired. Now, Cabo was almost a no-go for passengers on board a Southwest Airlines flight recently. Why? Well, the pilot about the Southwest flight, which hadn't left the unnamed airport, went on the plane's intercom threatening to return to the departure gate if iPhone users didn't stop sending nude photos to him and others via airdrop. So here's the deal. If this continues while we're on the ground, I'm going to have to pull back to the gate. Everyone's going to have to get off. We're going to have to get security involved, and your vacation is going to be ruined, he warned in a viral TikTok clip of the incident that has now been seen more than 2.2 million times. So you folks, whatever that airdrop thing is, quit sending naked pictures and let's get yourself to Cabo. Southwest Airlines said to the media the safety, security, and well-being of customers and employees in the Southwest team's highest priority at all times. When made aware of a potential problem, our employees address issues to support the comfort of those traveling with us. My goodness, my dad would have a heart attack. And finally, here's a weird one. A woman who likes to apparently flatulate in the cheese aisles of posh supermarkets has explained the reason for her unusual hobby, giving a whole new meaning to the term cut the cheese. Yeah, TikToker Amy Scott, aka Plastic Amy, shared a short but insightful clip to her followers with this eyebrow-raising admission. Yeah, the post has been seen 1.7 million times, says, I like farting in the cheese section of posh supermarkets. Amy has become known for her comedic skits, which she films, including the plastic surgery filter on TikTok while talking. So why does she do it? She goes, it's a good to have a hobby. It isn't much, but it's honest work. She also let her followers know where she enjoys or why she enjoys the hobby. The model explained that she does it just to hear the snooty people talk about how amazing the fresh smell of cheese really is. I gotta respect that. That's okay to me. Thank you so much to Shirky Poo for the news, Swamp Dweller, Super Duke, and of course our guest, Sybilla Irwin, tonight for a great show. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. Spreaker, YouTube, Twitch, LGAM, Facebook, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. I know you're out there somewhere. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night. Woohoo! You know, what am I going to say here? Like that. Hold on. I don't like seeing people leave the field. It doesn't matter whether I agree or disagree with their opinions. Because in the end, it's my opinion as to why I agree or disagree with them. And it kind of hit me tonight. Like Lou Jimenez and I aren't that close. He's been on our roundtable a few times. I think he's very well spoken. I think he put together a professional show. And, I don't think we're better off without him. I really don't. So it's a tough gig when all of us are competing for audience, all of us are competing for subscribers and thumbs up and whatever it may be. And we do this, we work our asses off for this. And in the end, we're just eating our own. Look, there are people out there who are, I could never, as a radio host, broadcast the way they do. I'll use an example here. Okay. In my 101, I used Rich Giordano, but I'll use a different one here. Steve Cambion. I am not a fan of the way he broadcasts. I am not a fan of the way he does things. But the guy is talented. He's great on the air. He's quick-witted. He is knowledgeable. You could tell he does his homework. And even though I may not be a fan of his content, I respect the work that he does. And I look at, other people, Ben and Joe from UFO Garage. They absolutely have a blast during their show. And they have fun. And, I look at somebody like Alien Scientist, over 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. And he's worked hard for that. Sometimes he does a little bit of a Jerry Springer act, but very smart, very educated, very well spoken. I respect that. Right? There's a lot of camaraderie that we're missing out on because our own egos are getting in the way. And everyone's emotional about this topic to the point where people say things that they probably wouldn't say to your face. Right? Unless it's Joe Mergia. And Joe Mergia, I would tell you to your face that I do fear for you if you ever meet up with Nick Pope and you two accidentally collide heads. Let's say one of you drops a pen and you both go down to pick it up at the same time and your hair gets stuck together. I worry about that. I do. I do worry about that. Okay? But there really is way too much tension going on. Hi, Terry Hall. How you doing, buddy? When we lose a show as popular as UCR, we all lose. Let me tell you how we all lose. We all lose because that means when a show leaves, the audience disperses and they go elsewhere. And a lot of audience, because they have made an emotional commitment to a show, that they don't go anywhere else. They leave. They leave what we are doing. They leave the community. And they don't come back as listeners. Look, there are people out there, guys, who absolutely cannot stand this show. All of you in the chat rooms and those who listen, you love it. Or you're here because of curiosity or whatever it may be. Right? To a lot of people, I'm not their cup of tea. To some people, I don't ask hard questions, even though I try and phrase hard questions into easy questions. I think it's a talent personally, but that's just me. Okay? And I've also said this in the past, that one of the flaws that we have in this field is everybody is allowed a voice, which is a good thing. But microphones, YouTube channels, podcasting can be a dangerous, dangerous game. All right? It could be a dangerous, dangerous game. And why? Because in journalism school or broadcasting school, they teach you how to ask questions. They teach you how to keep a show and or a story going. They teach you that these aha gotcha moments that we see all over social media now are not healthy to quality journalism. It doesn't bring integrity. You don't need aha gotcha moments. Like what example Joe Mergia was trying to do to me on Twitter the other day. Don't need it. That's why I didn't respond. People were saying that I had something to hide. No, I don't play Twitter. I don't play aha gotcha moments. I don't. Right? If you want to talk, as I said on Twitter, and Jules, if you're here, she could back me up. I said, Joe, you got my number. Call me. Just pick up the phone. Call me. Let's talk. Tell you what's going on. Right? Hey, I talk cryptids. How are you? United we stand. How you doing? But in this community, we don't want to talk. We want those aha gotcha moments, and we want to be able to, win all the time. Look, we ain't going to win all the time. We're not even going to get the bloody story. Okay? One thing I didn't like about Lou Jimenez leaving the way he did, I wish he hadn't left. I didn't like the way he stated that he wanted to burn down ufology. Ufology is a beautiful thing. I rather like it here. I like being a part of it. I like the people that I have met. And the journey has been incredible. There's been a lot of ups, there's been a lot of downs, but in the end, there's been a lot of good, much more better than bad. Hi, Aiden. How you doing? Good to have you here, man. Bourbon? Did I say bourbon? But by no means should anybody feel the pressure that they need to leave. Raven is Ryan, or Ravenous Ryan, whatever you want to be called. right? And like I said, there's people who don't like this show, and I'm okay with that. There are shows I don't like, but the community is not better for it when one of the bigger show leaves. It's just not. So, that's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. Got it, Terry? Call you in a few. But, hey, we all need to stick together. We all want the same thing, which is tell us about them damn UFOs. Hi, Mad Kiwi. How you doing, buddy? You know what? We're all allowed, but we have to stop cutting each other's throats and worrying about things like that and worrying more about why Bill Nelson is let off the hook. Why the Pentagon is let off the hook. Why the politicians who work for us want to keep everything behind closed doors. Those are the answers we need, people. We don't need to be carving shows or carving people or threatening to wipe out ufology. Okay? There's good people in this field. There really is. Even if you don't agree with them. And I'm okay with anybody making money off this field. Whether Lou Elizondo makes $1 billion or if, pick a person who has a YouTube channel here. Me? Or if I made 10 grand or 5 grand or 1,000. It's okay. It's okay. Making money is not an ugly sport. It's not like Pete Rose betting on baseball. Right? Just the way it is. Just the way it is. And that's the way it's got to be. So, how do you feel about that? Terry makes a very good comment here. It's tiring in this community. How we tear, that's a spelling mistake. I think he said, meant to say we. How we tear into every dissenting opinion, every scientist, journalist, down to the YouTuber that has 5 subs. Terry, that's a brilliant comment. It really is. And there's a lot of truth in what Terry is saying. It's real simple, guys. I have went off on people before. Okay? I really have. When I went off on people, I called them out. Not that I'm trying to have a holier than thou moment. But give you an example. In this field, there's a lot of fake journalists. People who claim they're journalists, but have never worked a day in journalism in their life. And some of those people have had a lot of success in lying about their resumes. We've seen fake scientists in this field who padded their resumes conferences, to books, television appearances, radio appearances. We've seen it all. I have no problem with people like that being held accountable. Because here's the thing. If you lie on your resume, how can we trust your research? You can't. It's like George Knapp is an investigative journalist. Dave Scott, in his radio days, journalist, never an investigative journalist. Why? I worked in sports. There's no investigative journalism in sports. There really isn't, unless you get tipped off to something. Right? Calling people out for lying about their resume is one thing. Calling them liars because of their experiences are unprovable is another. I'll be back in a couple minutes here, guys. Sorry about that, people. All right. Let me get caught up here for a second. All right. September 1st. Wow. Already. God damn, 2 months away from snow. All right, let me get caught up here. Yeah, that was on this show, Christine. YJ, do you live out in the boonies, dude? Thank you. Welcome to SOR chat. We have claw marks in an old oak tree in the front yard. Dogman has been spotted on the property. That's actually kind of cool. Thank you, Luscious Jules. Oh, yes. I know, Pam. Yeah, I'll tell you the reason why I'm talking about that already is because I'm moving my wood pile in my new wood shed. I bought a wood shed a couple of weeks ago, and I'm moving my wood pile in there. And I know my wood shed holds 4 cords of wood. So I'm trying my darndest to see how much wood I will need for the winter and how much I'm going to actually have to go out and get. Well, that's not too bad. That's not too bad. Acreage in my area, the real estate prices have gone up so much that when I moved here, you could buy a half acre or an acre worth of land for like 20 to 40 grand. Today, that same parcel of land is worth around $150,000. 7 years. You could buy a 10-acre property of land with a house for like 400 grand, 300 grand 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Today, that property is worth like 900,000 here. And what's funny about it is all these Vancouver people, or what we call cityites around here, they have they've only been city folk their entire life, and they're getting out of the lower mainland, like near Vancouver, because of congestion. And now they're wanting to move up here. But the problem is they're selling their homes that they've lived in for like 25, 30 years. Say they bought the house for $300,000. Well, that house today is worth like 1.1 to 1.4 million. And the issue that you have with that is they come up here and they get into bidding wars for houses. And then, so they drive the market prices up. But the problem is when they figure out that they don't like it, like right now, there's a 50% chance that somebody who buys from the lower mainland will be for sale within 2 years. So all they've done is driven up the cost of living up here and screwed everybody who was like wanting to, live here, or maybe is born and raised here and loves it here or whatever. It's ridiculous. It really is. Like, even like I'm looking at the real estate market here. A mobile home on, say, 0.78 of an acre is going for $329,000. 3 years ago, you could have bought that place for up here $125,000. Yeah. It's terrible. Terrible. But what do you do? What do you do? There's nothing you can do. And most of the houses up here are like really old and they need a lot of love. So by the time you're spending, say, $500,000, $600,000 or more on a home, now you're going to have to put another $150,000 into updating it. Yeah, that's the way we do it around here. But what do you do? What do you do? It's just the way it is. Just the way it is. YJ, we got Dogman down here on the east side of the highway, northeast of Canham Lake. Steve Istall actually did a couple of reports on Dogman sightings up here. Give me a couple seconds here. Okay. All right. Cool. Sorry, guys. I had an email come in that I needed to read. There we go. All right, we are done for the night. And tomorrow night on the show, our Keith Andrews is here. Remember, the next 2 weeks after this, I'm going to be taking time off to I got to do some stuff around SOR and kind of revamp and try and catch up on some sleep and everything. So let us reconvene tomorrow night. Our Keith Andrews and the ET Connection. Thank you tonight to everyone in our chat rooms. Thank you to Simon, YJ, Stephen, and Grant for the amazing super chats. We absolutely love you. And yeah, we're going to call it the night, everyone. Thank you to all our new subscribers. Checking on out. Good night.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
You need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.